Xiao Chun appears to be a gentleman of noble birth, but in reality, he is a haughty and impulsive scion who, having been pampered from a young age, developed an arrogant personality. He once led his friends to bully the weak Cheng Shu, but unexpectedly developed unusual feelings for Cheng Shu. Unwilling to admit his love for Cheng Shu, he could only flee in panic. The abandoned, inferior, and timid Cheng Shu had no choice but to continue enduring the bullying, which ultimately ruined his future. Unexpectedly, years later, he encountered Li Cheng Shu again, having let him go once due to youthful ignorance. Now, every chance meeting is carefully orchestrated by Xiao Chun, who wants to possess him, slowly consuming him until he is lost in confusion. Li Cheng Shu, oblivious to the good in front of him, tries to escape. "Let's break up, Xiao Chun," Li Cheng Shu says with a hard swallow, as Xiao Chun looks at him with a sinister glare, gripping his neck as if daring him to repeat those words. "You're getting married. Why didn't you tell me?" Li Cheng Shu says with a desolate face. Xiao Chun, uncaring, retorts, "I'm not marrying a woman, so should I marry him?" He pushes Xiao Chun away and turns to leave. He can't continue being foolish. What he thought was mutual affection, in Xiao Quan's eyes, he was merely a lover bought with money. "Li Chengshu, today you have the demeanor of leaving and never coming back." How dare he dictate his mood? How dare he even mention breaking up with him? What's this about Li Chengshu running away with someone? Xiao Dai screams madly, and Xiao Chun regrets it. As long as he can keep him by his side, he is willing to do anything. The story of the 188th Regiment leader chasing his wife to the crematorium begins. Is meeting again a continuation of happiness or the start of a nightmare? 2 years ago, Li Chengshu was cooking when he heard someone calling him, so he quickly turned around and responded. Manager Zhang asked someone nearby to take over and then smiled, saying, "Xiao Li, you're in luck this time." Seeing Li Chengshu's puzzled look, Manager Zhang hurriedly explained that today President Liu was entertaining an important guest, and the guest couldn't stop praising several dishes Chengshu made. Next month, there's going to be a sea party at Victoria Harbor, and the position of the main chef for the Chinese cuisine hasn't been decided yet. They wanted to see if Chengshu was up for it. Chengshu had never encountered such a good opportunity and eagerly accepted. Manager Zhang advised Chengshu to speak less later and told him that the bald man in the blue shirt was President Liu, and the guest was on his left. Manager Zhang gently knocked on the door, and inside, the boss's voice said to come in. Manager Zhang smiled apologetically while leading Chengshu inside. Chengshu was so nervous facing so many people that he didn't know what to do. Realizing this, he quickly greeted them. Chengshu looked at the handsome man in front of him, whose gaze was sharp and scrutinizing. His heart skipped a beat. Could this be the person from middle school? Manager Zhang quickly nudged him, bringing Chengshu back to his senses, and he hurriedly greeted, "Hello, President Xiao." It's been 10 years, he might not recognize him, but they both share the last name Xiao. President Xiao's magnetic voice rang out. "Master Li, right? You look so young. I didn't expect you to be able to make such delicious dishes." Manager Zhang, fearing that President Xiao would find his experience lacking, quickly explained that he only looked young but was actually 30. It was President Xiao's idea to hire Cheng Shu as the main chef for the Chinese cuisine at the sea party, and Cheng Shu hurriedly thanked him. President Xiao, stroking his chin casually, asked, "What's Master Li's full name?" Cheng Shu, trying to stay calm, quietly said, "My name is Li Cheng Shu." He wasn't sure if this was the same Xiao Chun who had bullied him before. Even if it was, he might not remember him. After all, it wasn't him who had done something bad. He didn't need to feel nervous or guilty. Upon hearing this, President Xiao just gave a meaningful, "Oh." President Xiao smiled and said that the menu for the party needs to be decided in advance, and he hoped that Master Li would be involved from the procurement stage. "But you shouldn't feel pressured. Your boss has already agreed," said the boss, trying to please President Xiao. "Master Xiao, it's not easy for us to lend out our chefs, but since we're good brothers, feel free to use him. Master Li's culinary skills are top-notch, though he's a bit introverted and somewhat reclusive. Please be patient with him." President Xiao's gaze lingered on Cheng Shu, and he leaned in to say, "No problem, as long as the chef's tongue can taste, that's all that matters." President Xiao patted his shoulder and whispered in his ear, "Master Li, then I'll come to pick you up in a few days so we can discuss this in detail." Cheng Shu couldn't help but feel, maybe it was just his imagination, that there was a hidden meaning behind this business proposal. After hesitating for a long time, he still couldn't help but quietly tell Manager Zhang that he didn't want to go. Manager Zhang's face darkened as he told him, "We can't afford to offend President Xiao, and besides, the pay is high." "What's wrong with you? Why wouldn't you go?" Suddenly, without thinking, Cheng Shu asked, "What's President Xiao's full name?" Manager Zhang's gaze became even colder and said, "Why does a cook like you want to know this?" Then he helplessly added, "The boss has already agreed to it personally, it's a done deal." Do your best, it's a good opportunity. Li Changsho couldn't say anything against it and had no choice but to agree. What he didn't know was that he had fallen into a trap that Xiao Dai had long planned. Previously, it was mentioned that Li Changsho was going to be the head chef for Xiao's offshore party. When Changsho saw Xiao, he felt that this person looked very much like the scumbag who bullied him in middle school. But 10 years had passed, maybe he was mistaken. Xiao's expression didn't show any particular reaction upon seeing Changsho, and he even praised him for being so young and yet cooking so well. Manager Zhang explained that although Changsho looked young, he was actually 30. Our little Shusho thought to himself, I'm 28, okay. Xiao was very interested and asked for Xiao Li's full name. Li Changsho's mind was uneasy, trying to keep calm. It might not be the same Xiao Chun who bullied him back then, and even if it was, he might not remember him. Stay calm, stay calm. I wasn't the one who did bad things, so I shouldn't feel guilty or nervous, and he replied, my name is Li Changsho. Xiao Chun said, oh, and then got up and walked over to Changsho. The party required advanced preparation of ingredients, and he wanted Changsho to participate as well, giving him the chance to see Changsho often. Manager Zhang said Changsho's cooking skills were top-notch, but his personality was introverted and a bit withdrawn. Xiao Chun said it didn't matter, as a chef just needed to be able to taste with their tongue. As Xiao Chun slowly approached, Changsho started to panic inside. Xiao whispered in Changsho's ear that he would pick him up the next day, giving Changsho a sense of foreboding. After Xiao Chun left, Changsho asked Manager Zhang if he could not go. Manager Zhang angrily said that Xiao's background was very significant and it couldn't be refused. Besides, the pay was several times more than usual. Are you crazy? Why wouldn't you go? Cheng Shu, feeling helpless, asked for his full name. Manager Zhang, impatiently, said, you're just a chef, why ask so many questions? The decision has been made. Instead of thinking about all these pointless things, you'd better show some good performance. This is a great opportunity for promotion. Cheng Shu could only agree helplessly. The memories on the rooftop that year remained Cheng Shu's indelible nightmare. Standing on the rooftop, restless and uneasy, enduring Xiao Quan's endless scolding and insults. What are you doing? Dressing every day like a ragpicker? That's disgusting. Saying that, he kicked Cheng Shu, who fell to the ground. Really, TND, such a wimp, just fell like that. Hearing himself being spoken of that way, Cheng Shu angrily looked at him. Why the dissatisfaction? Do you know who the boss of the school is? Cheng Shu lowered his gaze, clenched his teeth, and squeezed out two words, it's you. Satisfied with the response, Xiao Chun still spoke disdainfully, you, a man, even sit like a woman. Truly disgusting. The ringing of the phone brought Cheng Shu back to reality. He didn't know why he dreamt about the past again. Hello? Picking up the phone, he heard Xiao Quan's voice, which instantly made Cheng Shu tense. Gripping the quilt tightly, Xiao Chun said he would pick him up after work tomorrow to discuss the party. Cheng Shu said he was off tomorrow and wouldn't be working. Xiao Chun then said that's perfect, he'd have more time to serve him. Cheng Shu was speechless, thinking it was just his luck to have a day off and still not want to see him, and then said he'd take tomorrow off. I'll pick you up the day after tomorrow. Without waiting for Cheng Shu's agreement, he hung up, thinking no matter if he was the same Xiao Chun from before, he didn't want to have much to do with this person. Looking at his account balance, he remembered the debt he owed his Aunt C and hadn't yet repaid. He really needed this job and now hoped to get it over with as quickly as possible after meeting him the day after tomorrow. Cheng Shu checked his balance again and thought of Aunt C urging him to repay the money soon. Cheng Shu felt great pressure. Even though he didn't want to meet him, he really needed this job from Xiao Dai. The day arrived quickly, and after work, Cheng Shu, exhausted, had just left the restaurant. When he heard the sound of a car horn and was surprised to see the person he didn't want to see, Xiao Chun had been waiting for a while and said, I've come to pick you up. Xiao Chun extended his hand, and Cheng Shu, feeling embarrassed, lightly gripped his hand. To greet him, he rubbed Cheng Shu's hand firmly, telling him not to be so distant. Xiao Dai approached Li Cheng Shu, saying, do you really not remember me? Thinking to himself, it really was him. How could he forget the person who had once hurt him? Cheng Shu lowered his eyes and said he remembered, we haven't seen each other for over a decade. Seeing your reaction that day, I thought you had forgotten about me. I was quite upset. Xiao Chun spoke self-absorbedly, moving closer to Cheng Shu. He grabbed his arm, urging him not to be so distant and asked if he still held a grudge about the things he did when they were kids. After all, they were at the entrance of the restaurant and there were many acquaintances around. They stood very close and pulled at each other, and some people recognized Cheng Shu. Before Cheng could reply, Xiao Chun impatiently said, let's get in the car first. Using work as an excuse, Cheng Shu couldn't refuse. Xiao Chun took him to a dessert shop, complaining that he had been waiting for Cheng Shu for too long and was hungry. He insisted that Cheng Shu accompany him for a meal. Cheng Shu, I can call you that, right? You've always been tense. Do you dislike me? I'm very happy to meet you here again. All these years, I have never forgotten about you. Back then, I was young and naive, causing a lot of trouble for you and your family. I've always wanted to find an opportunity to apologize to you. I'm sorry, Cheng Shu, can you forgive me? Xiao Quan's sudden sincere apologies took Cheng Shu by surprise, thinking perhaps he truly realized his mistakes, so Cheng Shu said, it's okay. Xiao Chun was very happy to be forgiven by Cheng Shu. He also thanked him for coming to help with the party, saying he had no prior experience and was afraid he wouldn't do well. Xiao Chun comforted him, saying it was fine and would be similar to what they usually did in the restaurant. In casual conversation, Xiao Chun mentioned that Da Li was coming to see him, which made Cheng Shu's hand tremble and the spoon fall to the ground. The name filled him with fear and brought back a flood of bad memories. Xiao Chun didn't notice Cheng Shu's distress and kept talking to himself. Cheng Shu, trembling all over, said, no, I don't want to see him. Xiao Chun was initially surprised but then gently reassured him, all right, if you don't want to see him, I won't let them come, and placed his hand on Shu Shu's head. Cheng Shu quickly avoided Xiao Quan's hand. Was he shy or afraid? This made Xiao Chun feel uncomfortable. He stood up and said, then I'll take you home. Their first meal together ended just like that. Perhaps those memories between them were not yet resolved. How could those troublesome memories between them be easily forgotten? The car stopped in front of a rundown neighborhood. Xiao Chun was surprised and asked, you live in a place like this? Someone of his status naturally had never lived in such a place. As Cheng Shu got out of the car, Xiao Chun asked when his next day off was. Cheng Shu replied, next Wednesday. Xiao Chun asked Cheng Shu to take a day off this Saturday. Cheng Shu said he couldn't take a day off, as it would cost him his full attendance bonus. Xiao Chun sighed. He told Cheng Shu not to worry, as he would talk to the boss. After all, it was his first time hosting a party. He hoped to make it perfect and asked Cheng Shu if he could cooperate with his work. Hearing this, Cheng Shu could only reluctantly agree. Xiao Quan's sudden and strong presence caught him off guard. That distant, already blurred nightmare gradually became clearer because of Xiao Quan's appearance. 13 years ago, Cheng Shu was also a well-known figure at school. In this key high school, dominated by children of high-ranking officials, Cheng Shu, who got in by merit, seemed so out of place. His demeanor and way of dealing with people were not very manly, so he became known as a sissy among students. Classmates avoided and bullied him. The rumors and gossip behind him felt like knives stabbing his frail body. At that time, to make a living, Cheng Shu had to work at a restaurant every day to earn living expenses. The only thing that could comfort him was the fantasy of finding a good job and starting a new life when he grew up. To change his life. Xiao Chun, on the other hand, was a star figure, esteemed, arrogant, and handsome. He was truly dazzling. At this moment, Cheng Shu secretly watched the radiant Xiao Chun in the crowd. In his heart, a strange flutter surged, but he wasn't sure what exactly was different about himself. It was Xiao Chun who gave him the answer. What are you doing here? Cheng Shu squinted his eyes and saw it was Xiao Chun speaking to him. Cheng Shu quickly got up and tugged at his wrinkled clothes. Xiao Chun stepped back repeatedly, saying in a disgusted tone, what are you doing here? With a commanding tone, he asked, what are you doing here? Cheng Shu, seeing Xiao Chun's expression, said sadly. In the relentless Xiao Chun waved his hand and said, take your stuff and get out immediately, adding, the air stinks with you around. Cheng Shu, lifting his backpack, reluctantly walked away. But he hadn't gone far when Xiao Chun stopped him again, saying, just stay here. Wait for me to leave before you can go. Xiao Chun had only walked a few steps when Guade Tu said to Cheng Shu, heard your dad and mom dumped you. Ran off with Hu Lijian, huh? And that your grandma is also gone, is that true? Doesn't he care about you? Look how dirty you are, how can you bear to show yourself? Hearing this, Cheng Shu began to cry out of distress. After making him cry, Xiao Chun, annoyed, backhanded him with a slap, cursing, is your life really that miserable that all you can do is cry? Then, he kicked open the door to the rooftop, and Zhou Li and the others came in. They were looking for Xiao Chun. Seeing Xiao Chun and Cheng Shu together, one of them said, isn't this the effeminate guy? Aren't you afraid of being infected by being with her? And laughed. Look, you made the poor girl cry. As Xiao Chun was explaining, when I came up she was already there. I couldn't go back down. Zhou Li stepped forward, grabbed Li Chengshu's hair, and said, just like the rumors, huh? Your Majesty the gun, you're not disgusted by her sickly classmates? Zhou Li asked, aren't you disgusted by her not changing her clothes every day without fail? Not afraid of catching a contagious disease? What will happen to Chengshu next? Let's talk about it in the next episode. Zhou Li was still holding onto Li Chengshu's hair. Li Wenxun said, aren't you disgusted by her not changing her clothes every day without fail, not afraid of catching a contagious disease? Xiaochun felt a bit unbearable and then said, let's go. I want to drink something. It's too hot here. Zhou Li fiercely threw Chengshou against the wall and said, stay away from us in the future. At this moment, Xiaochun didn't know what day of the week it was and glanced back at Chengshou, who had suffered a lot and was urged by someone to, let's go, Xiaochun. What's the point? After they left, Chengshou was left alone, squatting in a corner and starting to cry. Zhou Li washed his hands several times with disdain, saying, I'm afraid her energy will infect me. Li Wenxun said, people like them are all homosexuals. I heard that her brother's company always has people like Li Chengshou. It's said they earn money by selling their butts to men. Don't be fooled by her dirty, messy appearance. If you look closely, she's actually quite delicate. Her voice is soft, and her physique is slim and weak. That's just how these people are. Xiaochun said busily, without evidence, these words are useless. Zhou Li sat next to Xiaochun and said he had a way to prove whether Chengshou was homosexual or not. Today was a snowy day, and Chengshou was also in a good mood, thinking to herself, on the way to work, there's no need to be so blind anymore. Suddenly, a palm blocked our little Shushou's way. At first, Xiaogun and the others said to him, you're really harder to find than a star. We've come several times and haven't seen you. Do you always walk this route because you're following someone's first move? Everyone was discussing, isn't this Xiaogun? Are you looking for the queen to challenge her or something? Xiaogun said impatiently, what are you looking at? Get your heads back. Zhao Bian thought to himself, aren't you just a fart? Seeing Xiaogun showing off made everyone really walk away. Come with me, Chengshou said. What for? To have some fun, Chengshou refused, saying, I still need to go to work and earn money. Xiaogun was about to show off when Li Wen quickly said, it's like this. We felt that our attitude towards you on the rooftop that day was too much. We want to apologize and think you're quite alright. We want to be friends with you. Chengshou thought to himself, is there anyone else willing to be friends with me? Everyone was a bit moved. Additionally, they wanted to ask for his help with something. Xiaogun looked dreamily at Li Wen, who winked at Xiaogun. Xiaogun quickly said, yeah, for the task. And it pays 500 a day, much better than your job. Chengshou was impressed. 500? Did I hear that right? Holding 500 yuan in his hand, he was moved to action. Can you come with us now? They took Chengshou to a luxurious club. They also had Chengshou change into clothes they had specially prepared for him. Holding the clothes, Chengshou asked, can I not go? Xiaochun said impatiently, stop talking nonsense, change quickly. Do I need to change it for you myself? Chengshou replied, frustrated, can you guys turn around? I feel like hitting him every time I see him now. Li Wenxun told Xiaochun, remember what we agreed on that day? You were supposed to shadow him. If you can't keep playing, just admit defeat. Admit defeat? The concept of losing doesn't exist in my life. Xiaochun turned around and saw Chengshou changing his clothes. Suddenly he blushed and swallowed hard. Chengshou, having changed, said, this shirt seems too tight. He pulled at his shirt, which was revealing too much, and said it was too revealing. Xiaochun was watching. As soon as Xiaochun snapped out of it, he grabbed Chengshou's hand and went inside. Zhou Li said, you did it, you really brought us in here. Li Wenxun said, this is my brother's club. How could the manager not give me face? Chengshou looked at Xiaochun drinking and thought to himself, he looks just like a boy 2 years younger than me. He doesn't seem that scary. Just then, Xiaochun looked up and saw Chengshou looking intently at him, and aggressively forced Chengshou to drink a cup of liquor. Impatiently, he said, drinking a bit of liquor is nothing much, and then he picked up a glass to toast. Chengshou struggled, splashing Xiaochun with the drink. Xiaogun angrily threw the cup onto the floor and started cursing loudly, with Chengshou terrified, squatting on the couch, trembling. Xiaogun dragged off his clothes and pulled Chengshou up to wipe himself clean. Zhaochun forced Chengshou to drink, and during the struggle, the liquor spilled on Xiaogun's clothes. Annoyed, Xiaogun tore off his soiled clothes and threw them on the ground. Shirtless, he grabbed Chengshou's hands, demanding him to wipe it clean. Chengshou quickly agreed. Chengshou, with his hands on Xiaogun, earnestly wiped it clean. Such close contact inevitably made him blush. Just then, Zhou Li appeared, tearing away Xiaogun's waistband, saying it should be done below as well. Xiaogun forcefully brushed Zhou Li's hand away. Make it clean, Xiaogun demanded. Chengshou asked uncertainly, hear what? Xiaogun cursed loudly, damn it, what the hell are you thinking? This made everyone else burst into laughter. Today, young master is giving you face, I'll let you off this time. Xiaogun pointed at the large cup of beer on the table, finish this barrel, and we'll call it even. Chengshou looked at the large cup of beer. Thinking there was no escape today, he closed his eyes. In silence, Xiaogun stared blankly at Chengshou, thinking, looking at him, with such delicate skin, he's actually quite cute. He shook his head, feeling he must be bewitched. How could he find him cute? Lu spoke harshly, finish it all, and if even a drop is left, I'll beat you to death. After finishing, Changsho felt a bit drunk. Just then, Li Wenchun's brother suddenly arrived. He doesn't allow him to hang out in such places, so he widened his eyes and yelled, "Brother." His brother came forward, grabbed his ear, and scolded, "Are you taking my words for granted? How many times have I told you not to come to places like this? Instead of studying properly, you're always thinking about all this nonsense. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death." Just then, his brother saw Li Changsho sitting on the sofa. Stepping forward, he slapped her on the backhand and scolded, "You shameless bitch, who the hell let you in? Are you desperate, or is your ass itching? Daring to take on underage clients?" With that, he fiercely kicked Changsho in the stomach. At this moment, the young group alliance stepped forward, pushing away Li Wenchun's brother and stood in front of Changsho. They said, "Bro, this is my classmate." Li Wenchun's brother, looking at Changsho, who was curled up on the sofa, disdainfully said, "A student dressing like this is simply sick." Then, he dragged Li Wenchun away. The others said they would leave too. "You take him home. He's just unlucky today." Shachun nodded and then, Shachun sat down next to Changsho and asked how he was doing. "Are you okay?" Seeing Changsho curled up on the sofa, crying non-stop from the pain, he thought, someone like Li Wenchun, who really mingles in the underworld, couldn't handle being beaten by two adults, let alone the frail Changsho. So, he consoled, "It's okay, no bones hurt. Stop crying." Patting him on the back, he said, "I'll take you home." Changsho was in so much pain he couldn't move, thinking one shouldn't be greedy for money that doesn't belong to them. Now he's indeed facing retribution. Shachun, holding Changsho, said, "If you dare to vomit on me, I'll throw you down." Changsho said, "I want to go home," and then fell asleep. Shachun, helplessly, said, "But I don't know where your home is." It was mentioned that Changsho was heavily drunk and got roughed up quite badly by Li Wenchun. Everyone was frozen on the sofa. Xiaogun suddenly picked up Changsho. As Changsho muttered about wanting to go home, he fell asleep. But Xiaogun didn't know where Changsho lived. Looking at the now sleeping Changsho, he reluctantly took him to a hotel, muttering about the smell and insisting on cleaning him up first. He tossed Changsho into the bathtub, then cleaned himself up a bit, thinking how unlucky he was today. In the end, he was left alone dealing with a pretty drunken mess, feeling dirtier and uglier than ever, and complained about never having been so disheveled and having to bathe a drunk. Reluctantly, Xiaogun peeled off Changsho's shirt, revealing his white, delicate skin, and was about to take off his pants when he suddenly paused, thinking how removing his clothes felt like undressing a woman, his face reddening at the thought. He blamed it on the child being too effeminate. Xiaogun stared blankly at Changsho soaking in the bathtub, noticing his slender waist and long legs, reminiscent of the Japanese women he saw in a movie a few days ago. Unaware of his thoughts, Xiaogun widened his eyes and slapped himself hard to stay alert and stop his thoughts. His face was already flushed red. Initially planning to scold Changsho, Xiaogun instead became a personal caretaker for him, meticulously wiping down his body, wondering how he could have such fanciful thoughts about someone he found annoying and effeminate. As he thought, his face turned red again and he turned off the tap. He quickly wrapped Shusho in a bath towel and threw her onto the bed, then fled in a hurry. The next day, Changsho was woken up by the ringing of the telephone. The front desk reminded him to check out by 12 p.m. Changsho said he would check out, recalling whether it was Xiaochun who had undressed him and bathed him yesterday. At that moment, he saw the clock on the wall and realized it was too late. He hurriedly packed up and rushed to school. On his way to the classroom, the classmates looked at him in a peculiar way, whispering among themselves. What's wrong with his face? Did he get into a fight? Changsho went to the bathroom and saw in the mirror that his face was obviously swollen. Suddenly remembering that Xiaochun still had his backpack, he decided to find Xiaochun to retrieve it. Just then, someone bumped into him, almost causing him to fall. Turning around, he saw a group of boys standing in front of him. They asked, "Where did Xiaochun take you yesterday?" and pushed Changsho against the wall. Just as Xiaochun was about to deliver Changsho's backpack, he heard the commotion. He pushed open the door, grabbed the boy who was about to hit Changsho, and intervened. With just a backhand, the bad boy bullying Changsho was knocked down. Seeing that it was Xiaochun who came, everyone hurriedly ran away. It must be said that at this moment, our Xiao Da finally acted like a human being. He lifted Changsho's chin, gently pressed his tender cheek, and touched the corner of the kid's mouth. Changsho, with cold tears, said it hurts, and Xiaochun withdrew his hand. He gave him the backpack and grabbed Changsho's hand, saying he would take him to the infirmary, but Changsho struggled, not wanting to go. Xiaochun didn't listen to him at all, saying the class was already over. Dragging him into the infirmary, Changsho reminded the doctor not to mess around with things. Xiaochun handed him a cup of water and some anti-inflammatory pills. He then took some ointment, lifted up Changshu's shirt saying, "Let me apply some medicine to you." This startled Changshu, who wondered what was wrong with Xiaochun, and ended up spitting out the water he was drinking in shock. Previously, it was mentioned that Xiaochun forcibly dragged Changshu to the infirmary, and after taking the medicine, insisted on Changshu taking off his shirt to apply the medicine. This really scared Changshu, making him spit out the water in his mouth in fear. Changshu asked in surprise, "Why?" Xiaochun said, "Your stomach. I'm just applying some medicine for you. What's there to ask?" As he spoke, he pushed Changshu onto the bed. Changshu looked at Xiaochun and thought, "Why is he applying medicine to me? Doesn't he hate me? If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been beaten for no reason. Could it be that he's feeling guilty?" Xiaochun lifted Changshu's shirt, saw the bruises on her stomach, and said, "I'll give you a massage, but it'll hurt a bit. Bear with it." Then he started pressing down. Changshu screamed in pain, saying, "It hurts, stop." But Xiaochun ignored her and said, "It won't heal if I don't press it. Better short-term pain than long-term pain." Changshu struggled, saying, "It hurts so much. I don't want you to press it anymore." At this, Xiao Quan's temper flared, and he said impatiently, "Why are you so fragile? It won't kill you." Changshu, feeling wronged, turned her face away and said, "Who asked for your help?" At that moment, Xiaochun froze, thinking back to the morning when he had heard that this girl hadn't shown up, and how he'd been restless all day. The moment he heard she was back, he rushed over and even gave her a massage. What was he doing? Am I an idiot? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, so he threw the massage oil at Changshu and said, "You don't know when to appreciate kindness." Changshu suddenly sat up and called out to Xiaochun, who was about to leave with a smug expression. Xiaochun, feeling triumphant, said, "What? Regretting it now?" Changshu held out money and said, "This is yours. I don't want it." This completely enraged Xiaochun. He furiously slapped the 100 yuan bill out of Changshu's hand and said angrily, "Keep it as medical expenses." That day, Changshu sat alone on the rooftop, thinking, "It's been a week and Xiaochun and the others haven't come looking for me. I should return the money and the clothes, but I really don't want to see them. Maybe I'll return it when I run into them." At that moment, the door to the rooftop suddenly flew open with a bang, startling Changshu so much that her little bread roll almost fell to the ground. She looked up and saw Xiaochun. He threw his school bag next to Changshu and sat down, asking, "Why do you still look like such a mess? Where are the clothes I bought for you?" Changshu replied, "In the desk drawer. I'll give them to you after school, okay?" Xiaochun, with disdain, said, "Are you sick? Why would I want the clothes you've worn? With your underdeveloped body, even if I could wear them, how would I prevent your lice from jumping onto me?" As he spoke, Xiaochun looked at Changshu's chin and said, The swelling's gone down." He reached out to press it, causing Changshu to yelp in pain. He asked, "Does it still hurt?" As he spoke, he tried to lift Changshu's shirt to check, but Changshu said, "No." She struggled, and in the process, jam from her bread got smeared on Xiao Quan's trousers. Xiaochun kicked the little bread roll aside angrily and said, "What are you plotting now? I just want to see if your stomach is healing." Changshu, flustered, quickly tried to find something to clean his trousers. Xiaochun, with a malicious grin, said, "Last time I let you off easily, and now you dare resist again? This time, you won't be so lucky." He pointed to his trousers and said, "Lick them clean." The narrator then notes, Xiao Quan's hair feels nice to the touch, and his whole body is like a small animal. Wherever you touch, it feels great, and he never lashes out. At that moment, Xiaochun suddenly realized something. He had grown fond of touching Changshu because he treated her like a fool. Happily, Xiaochun rubbed Changshu's head and said, "From now on, stay with me." After that, Xiaochun seemed to really enjoy playing his game of taking care of Changshu. Not only did he drag her around the school, but he also made a point of walking with her after class. Initially, Changshu was terrified, thinking she must have done something wrong again to deserve this. But after a few days, she gradually relaxed. Aside from giving her food, Xiaochun mostly treated her like a toy, sometimes ruffling her hair, other times pinching her cheeks. Eventually, Changshu got used to Xiao Quan's constant presence, and her fear of him diminished. One day, as she held the food Xiaochun bought her and watched him sleep, she thought, thinking back carefully, although Xiaochun always threatened to hurt me, he never really did. In fact, he's been treating me better than my own parents, taking me to eat good food, applying medicine to my wounds, giving me clean clothes, and telling everyone not to bully me. Although he still says harsh things when he's upset, I feel kind of cared for." Just then, Xiaochun opened his eyes, and Changshu said, "Thank you." Suddenly, Xiaochun leaned closer and asked Changshu to give him a massage. He mentioned that he had rented a place near the school, so Changshu could rest there during lunch breaks. Changshu looked at Xiaochun and asked, "Why are you taking such good care of me?" Xiaochun replied, "Because I feel like it." Then, grabbing Cheng Shu's chin, he said, as long as you behave, I'll make sure you graduate smoothly. That afternoon, Xiao Chun casually held Cheng Shu's hand as they walked, when they ran into Li Wenchun. He approached and said, looks like your brother really punished you hard, huh? Li Wenchun replied, I couldn't get out of bed for days, and now that I'm better, they've sent me back to school. Seeing Cheng Shu, he said to Xiao Chun, bro, you don't have to go this far. Dolly's too busy chasing girls to care about our bet. You don't have to take it so seriously. Xiao Chun responded, he's actually pretty fun, like a little puppy. Since I'm bored, I might as well keep him around for fun. Li Wenchun said, you're crazy. Do what you want. My brother set a curfew for me, so I have to go. Let's hang out at your place next time. Xiao Chun then took Cheng Shu to the rented apartment. Although the building was a bit run down, the interior was newly renovated. Cheng Shu said, I've never seen such a beautiful place. Xiao Chun replied, it's simple, but it's clean, and it has everything you need. From now on, come here to rest. Don't hide out on the rooftop anymore. You can even come here at night if you want. Xiao Chun then handed her a key. Cheng Shu, still in disbelief, asked, are you really letting me stay here? Xiao Chun cupped her face and said, of course I am. Don't say no, take whatever I give you, don't be too polite. Xiao Chun took Cheng Shu to the bedroom to take a look. Xiao Chun lay on the bed and said, damn, I'm so sleepy. The old man's lecture in the field was so boring, thankfully it's over now. Then he patted the bed and said to Cheng Shu, come here, this bed is super comfortable. Cheng Shu pondered for a moment and walked over slowly, then Xiao Chun suddenly grabbed Cheng Shu and turned him around. Xiao Chun, lying on the bed, said it was very comfortable and also asked Cheng Shu to try it. Cheng Shu walked over slowly. Xiao Chun grabbed Li Cheng Shu and pulled him over, slowly leaning in and said, I've gotten used to your scent from being with you so much. Did you take a bath yesterday? Cheng Shu sniffed and then tightened his arms. He said to Li Cheng Shu, that explains it. From now on, you need to take a bath and change clothes every day. Got it? Cheng Shu tried to move away, but Xiao Chun said not to move, I want to sleep for a while. Suddenly, Lin Sheng thought of something and Xiao Chun picked up the phone angrily saying, darn, what timing. He answered the phone saying, I know, I'm coming down now. Then he told Cheng Shu, my dad is coming home today, the driver is here to pick me up. It's up to you if you want to stay tonight. You should come over tomorrow, got it? Cheng Shu nodded in agreement, while Xiao Chun stared at him unwillingly, suddenly lunging forward, frightening Cheng Shu who yelled, what are you doing? Xiao Chun retorted, just a hug, what's wrong with that? Why are you so stingy? Xiao Chun stood up and said to Cheng Shu, I'm leaving, see you tomorrow. As Cheng Shu watched his departing figure, Cheng Shu blushed. Walking through the campus that day, he thought to himself, Xiao Chun has changed since we first met. Though overbearing and hot-tempered, with harsh words, he is actually a good person. His chest felt warm during the hug, and he had a clean scent. Feeling so fortunate to be friends with Xiao Chun. Suddenly, Xiao Chun appeared out of nowhere, grabbing Cheng Shu's arm angrily and asked, why didn't you come that day? You were clearly told to come back the next day, why didn't you? Cheng Shu replied with a grievance, but that was a Saturday, a holiday. Xiao Chun's temper almost got the better of him as he said, even if there's no school, if I ask you to go to that apartment, you should go. I waited for you all day. MD, you don't even have a mobile phone. I had no idea where to find you. What are your ears for? Can't you understand human language? Cheng Shu shivered as he repeatedly apologized, I'm sorry, so sorry. Xiao Chun then pulled out his phone and checked. Indeed, it was Friday. Feeling wronged, he thought, a promise must be kept no matter what. If I could remember, why couldn't he? He tortured himself all night, foolishly waiting from daylight till sunset at that little hill apartment. At this moment, Xiao Chun took out a mobile phone and said, take this, you must always carry it with you. I need to be able to find you at any time. Cheng Shu replied, this is too expensive, I don't want it. Xiao Chun, impatiently, said, just take it if I tell you to. It was given to me by someone else. My family has so many we can't use them all. Cheng Shu stated that he didn't know how to use it. Xiao Chun said it's simple, after school, come to my apartment and I'll teach you. Dolly arrived at the apartment, plopped down on the sofa, and said, couldn't you rent a bigger place? Li Wen swiftly replied, what do you know? This is called a golden hideaway, it can't be too big. Cheng Shu stood aside, watching them joke around freely, feeling somewhat disappointed, thinking that this place was special to Xiao Chun, that he wouldn't let others come over, just the two of them. At this moment, Xiao Chun suddenly put his arm around Cheng Shu's shoulder and said, come here, I'll teach you how to use the phone. Others teased, are you going to consummate the marriage so soon? After locking the room door, Xiao Chun said, don't mind them, they talk nonsense. Xiao Chun earnestly taught Cheng Shu, saying it's very simple, you only need two functions, one to make calls and the other to send texts. When you're calling me, Just press the 2 green buttons, got it? Cheng Shou seriously replied, and for sending texts, press here, then here. Cheng Shou found Xiaochun's way of composing texts very interesting. Then Xiaochun took out his phone to show Cheng Shou and said, "This is the message you sent me." Seeing Xiaochun's confidence, Cheng Shou blushed and replied, "You clearly sent this yourself." Xiaochun said, "Then send me one." Cheng Shou took the phone and started typing. Xiaochun tried to peek at what Cheng Shou was writing from behind. Cheng Shou covered the phone and said, "Wait until I've sent it, then you can look." Xiaochun's heart was pounding, wondering what Cheng Shou would send him. Then Xiaochun's phone chimed. He picked it up immediately to see, Xiaochun is a big troublemaker. Cheng Shou threw down the phone and hugged Li Chengshou, starting to tickle him while asking, "Who's the big troublemaker? Quick, tell me, am I a good guy? Am I nice to you?" Cheng Shou blushed and said, "Yes." Then Cheng Shou's stomach growled with hunger. Xiaochun stood up and said, "Let's go see what they're having for lunch." They walked to the door and heard the sound of a man and woman arguing. Cheng Shou asked, "Are they watching TV?" Xiaochun seemed to have thought of something. With a mischievous smile, "Come over, I'll take you to see something fun." They walked into the living room, and saw the 3 of them watching TV intently. Cheng Shou also glanced at the TV, and then became panicked. With a shout, he startled the 3 deeply engrossed in watching TV. Li Sheng angrily said, "I'm noisy, you scared me to death, it feels like being taken by my mom." Xiaochun took Cheng Shou's hand. "What's there to be afraid of? Which guy doesn't watch this? Come, sit down," Li Wenchun said. This was sneaked out from his brother. "It's a rare opportunity, if we don't watch it today, we might never get the chance again." Xiaochun said, "You can even get your hands on this kind of resource, not sharing it with me, that's really mean." Li Wenchun said, "You and your little wife. It's heating up inside the room. How could I dare disturb you?" Xiaochun saw Cheng Shou's face and didn't dare look at the TV. "Speaking of what you did back then, the TV isn't going to eat you. What's there to be afraid of?" Cheng Shou said, "We can't watch this," and Dolly laughed mockingly, "Idiot, what's there you can't watch? Look at yourself. Watch it well and learn. Won't you need this when you get a girlfriend someday?" Xiaochun started his own inner performance, thinking, "When I used to watch this kind of TV, I thought the Japanese women inside had fair skin, slim waists, but now I feel that Cheng Shou's skin, waist, and legs aren't worse than theirs. His face also looks better than theirs. If there are scenes with Da Zhang following, I won't bring up your imagination anymore. Fill it in yourself." Xiaochun thought and thought, then suddenly stood up with a swoosh, startling everyone nearby. Dolly exclaimed, "Wow, what's up with you? Don't scare people like that." Cheng Shou was also startled, thinking, did I offend him again somehow? Preview of the next episode. The complications between Xiaochun and Cheng Shou. Xiaochun turned and said he was going downstairs to buy something to eat. The door was forcefully slammed shut as soon as he left. Xiaochun leaned against the door. His heart was racing, thinking, I'm not normal anymore, really not normal. What is going on? Why did watching TV make me think of Cheng Shou? He's a guy. A guy. Xiaochun slapped his face hard. Then he returned with food. While Dolly and the others ate and joked around, only Xiaochun and Cheng Shou ate in silence. Xiaochun thought, if I had known, I wouldn't have brought them here. This was originally just me and Cheng Shou. He thought about cuddling with Cheng Shou and having a nice nap at noon, but it was all ruined by them. After eating, Xiaochun pulled Cheng Shou aside, saying they should go to the rooftop for a while. They sat on the rooftop. Cheng Shou asked Xiaochun, will you ever have a girlfriend? Xiaochun, proud and confident, replied, anyway, until now, no girl has caught my eye. Xiaochun asked with a smile, by the way, did you think that girl on the TV was pretty? Cheng Shou's face instantly turned red at the question. Xiaochun said, why does your face always turn red so easily? No matter what I say, it turns red. Your face is as thin as paper. Do you really feel nothing? Then, his hand roguishly brushed against Cheng Shou's pants, making Cheng Shou lean back repeatedly. Xiaochun said impatiently, what are you pretending for? Are you even a man? Cheng Shou said, I am. Xiaochun turned Cheng Shou's face, saying, why do I feel you're even more like a girl? Cheng Shou said, feeling wronged, don't say that about me. Xiaochun looked at Cheng Shou and said, you're not even a guy, you're prettier than a girl. After saying this, Xiaochun was stunned, thinking, did I just say what I was really thinking? Cheng Shou said, Xiaochun, you jerk, you're a big jerk. Xiaochun said, alright, I was just joking around, don't be so petty. I didn't mean anything by it, I was just speaking the truth. Cheng Shou pouted and glared at Xiaochun in front of him, really wanting to roast him. Xiaochun pinched Cheng Shou's face, saying, your mouth looks like it could hang 2 pounds of pork. Cheng Shou struggled, saying, let go of me. Xiaochun suddenly grabbed Cheng Shou tightly. They were very close. At this age of youthful passion, their hearts were beating fast. Xiaochun closed his eyes and leaned in for a kiss. Just then, the door to the rooftop suddenly opened, and someone shouted, "Xiaochun, Xiaochun," and Changsho looked over. It was Dolly and the others. Dolly angrily shouted, "What are you doing?" Xiaochun forcefully pushed Changsho away. Li Wensun grabbed Xiaochun's collar and yelled, "What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is going on?" Xiaochun said anxiously, "I don't know." "Of course, you're not like Ton Laika then." Li Wensun grabbed Changsho by the neck and said, "So it's you seducing Xiaochun? What did we say before? Turns out he is Ton Laika. I feel sick." Then he slapped Changsho and said, "Today, I'll teach him a lesson." Changsho looked at Xiaochun in despair, hoping he would help him, but Xiaochun was indifferent. They beat and kicked Changsho, taunting him and trying to pull off his clothes to check if he was really a man, scaring Changsho badly. Xiaochun looked back at Changsho, who was in a miserable state. Perhaps out of a slight pity, he told Dolly, "Enough, let's go." Dolly said, "If you dare tell anyone about this, or slander Xiaochun, I'll make sure you suffer." Changsho sat alone in a corner, crying sadly, thinking, "I didn't seduce anyone and I'm not Ton Laika." Xiaochun looked back at him but left without turning around. Since the incident on the rooftop, Xiaochun stayed home and refused to come out. Li Wensun and Zhou Li, who were classmates of Changsho's, kept making things difficult for him, making his days at school increasingly unbearable. His desk, textbooks, and notebooks were covered in filthy insults. During class, people even threw chalk at his back. The teachers were indifferent. The nasty rumors spread quickly through the school, turning him from a weak, effeminate boy into a shameless, disgusting Ton Laika. He endured ridicule and pointing every day. In just 3 or 4 days, it felt like years had passed. One day, a junior handed him a note. The note was supposedly from Xiaochun, telling him to stay in the classroom after school so Xiaochun could meet him. After school, everyone left, and Changsho sat alone, wondering what Xiaochun wanted to say. Would he explain what happened that day or comfort him, promising to stop others from bullying him? If so, that would be wonderful. Thinking about it, he accidentally fell asleep. When he woke up, it was already dark, and the place was empty. Xiaochun hadn't come. He pressed the switch on the wall, but at this time, the school had already cut off the power. Changsho walked down the stairs, surrounded by darkness, thinking, Xiaochun didn't come. He let me down. The school gates had already been locked, and he was trapped inside. Changsho pounded on the iron gate, shouting, "Is anyone there? Is anyone there?" But the school was deserted. The security guard came over and said, "What's going on? School's over. Why aren't you home? Why are you still here after the gate opened?" Changsho said, "Thank you, uncle." The guard looked at him and said, "Oh, it's you." The guard kindly said he would quickly take Changsho home on his bike. Changsho was happy and thanked him but didn't expect the guard to be so lecherous. The guard told Changsho to hold onto his waist, saying he had drunk a little and was unsteady. "What if I fall? Better hold on tight so you don't fall off, or I won't be responsible." Changsho had no choice but to hold the guard's waist. The distance was close, and Changsho could smell the guard's unpleasant body odor. The guard showed a lewd smile, stroked Changsho's hand, and said, "That's better. If you fall, I'll feel bad." He asked, "I heard you're one of them. Is that true?" "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." Changsho denied it, but the guard suddenly stopped the bike and said, "What are you denying? I heard about what you did." As he spoke, he grabbed Changsho's bottom, saying, "People like you must enjoy it." Changsho struggled and shouted for help. A resident opened their window and shouted, "Why are you yelling so late at night? People are trying to sleep." The lecherous guard, panicked, slapped Changsho and said, "Shut up. Scream one more time, I dare you." He punched Changsho again. The guard scorned, "Why are you pretending to be so pure, you shameless thing?" Afraid that the residents would call the police, the guard hurriedly got on his bike and left, leaving Changsho lying on the cold street. Bruised and in pain, Changsho was filled with despair. Wondering why life treated him so cruelly, the following months became the darkest time of his life. After the assault, Changsho cried for over 2 hours as he walked home. When he arrived, he found his mother had suffered a severe stroke. With his family's meager savings exhausted and facing relentless bullying at school, Changsho even considered ending his life. He couldn't understand why he was enduring such hardship. He didn't harm anyone or do anything wrong. Why didn't anyone like him? Why was he living like this? But reality didn't give him time to dwell on it. He sold the family's old house at a low price. He kneeled to borrow money from all his relatives and never returned to school, taking on 3 jobs by himself. Despite all his efforts, he couldn't save his mother when she passed away. Changsho was nearly deaf, broke, and utterly alone. He was left with nothing but despair. Suddenly, Changsho woke up from the nightmare. He thought to himself, "Luckily, a chef helped me pay for culinary school and introduced me to a job in Shenzhen. If it weren't for Xiaochun's sudden appearance, I'd have long forgotten these painful memories. I'm scared Xiaochun will cause a huge stir in my life again, but he, like before, never gives me a chance to refuse." The next day, Mr. Chen called Changsho to his office and said, "I heard from Xiaochun that you don't want to disrupt your work." As the boss, he was pleased, but he said, "For Xiaochun's sake, even if I have to make a loss, We need to make a great start for our Pearl River Delta expansion. Manager Zhang said they were already short on staff, and Mr. Chen was really making a sacrifice for him. Xiaochun replied. Chen is really considerate. I'll make sure to bring Chengshou back in great shape in 2 weeks. After they left, Manager Zhang patted Chengshou's shoulder and said, do a good job. Remember to treat Mr. Xiao well. Our boss has something to ask of him, so don't offend him. Understand? Wait here, and Mr. Xiao will take you once he's done. In the car, Xiaochun said, you're a busy man. I've been calling your phone all day, but it was off. Chengshou replied, I turned it off during work hours. As Chengshou fastened his seatbelt, Xiaochun took his hand, insisting on helping him buckle up. The narrator comments, in reality, Xiaochun is no different from that lecherous guard. Suddenly, Xiaochun leaned close to Chengshou and said, why are you so nervous every time we're alone? Chengshou, nervously clutching his seatbelt, replied, I'm not. Chengshou's small hand also held on tightly. Xiaochun, pleased, gave a subtle smile. He took Chengshou to meet the organizers of the yacht party. He told Chengshou they would go out to eat, but Chengshou refused, saying, no, I need to go home and do laundry and clean up. Xiaochun, displeased, said, you can do that after dinner. Don't you need to eat? He thought. Is he really rejecting me with such a lame excuse? Chengshou insisted he could cook for himself. Xiaochun replied, you really have a lot of pride, don't you? So many people would make a reservation just to have a meal with me. Can't you give me some face? The pushy Xiaochun said forcefully, get in the car, Chengshou, or should I carry you? Chengshou hesitated, can I just go home? Xiaochun said, I'll take you home right now, but I'm coming with you in the next episode. Xiaochun will make his way into Chengshou's home. Xiaochun insisted on visiting Chengshou's home. Chengshou, unable to refuse, reluctantly agreed. After they arrived, Xiaochun said, why is it so hot here? Turn on the air conditioning. Chengshou replied, we only have a fan. Xiaochun was surprised and plopped down beside the fan, telling Chengshou to get him some tissues to wipe his sweat. Chengshou said, you sit here, I'm going to take a shower. As Xiaochun wiped his sweat, he thought, how did he manage in this poorly ventilated old place? Especially on the top floor. He wandered over to the table. Picking up a book, he noted that Chengshou was interested in accounting. Just then, Chengshou came out of the bathroom. Xiaochun looked at him, thinking, almost 30, but he still has the innocence of a young student, unpolished and genuine. I've been craving it for over 10 years, I wish I could devour it right now. Chengshou said he is now self-studying rapidly every day. Xiaochun said he could hire a professional accounting teacher for Chengshou, but Chengshou declined. Thank you, Xiaochun said as he picked up a towel to dry Chengshou's hair, but Chengshou dodged, wary. Xiaochun sighed, saying he was hungry. Let's cook, Chengshou said as he crouched down to search for ingredients in the fridge. Xiaochun caught a glimpse of his slender waist, imagining how he would like to embrace him tightly, strip off those bothersome pants, to leave a row of bite marks on his back, his neck so white and slender, his waist so fine, looking absolutely delicious, making one unable to resist the urge to hold him close and knead. Chengshou placed the cooked dishes on the table. The particularly picky goose eyed the full spread, finding none of its favorites, vowing to tame it later so it could pick whatever it wanted. Seeing Xiaochun being picky, Chengshou thought, if he knew he didn't like coriander and garlic, he would have added them to every dish. Xiaochun praised, Chengshou, your cooking is really delicious. Chengshou said thanks. Watching Chengshou eat, Xiaochun thought although he ate like a lady, it was quite terrifying. After dinner, Xiaochun couldn't take his eyes off Chengshou. Washing dishes and wiping tables, doing house chores, Chengshou writes helplessly, it's past 8, why hasn't he left yet? Xiaochun takes a deep breath and says, do you really dislike me that much? Why don't you ever talk to me? Chengshou stammers, I don't know what to say. I can't speak well. Xiaochun, with a pained expression, asks Chengshou, you weren't like this before. Why is it so hard for you to speak now? Is it because of me? He grabs Chengshou's hand, urging him to talk about what had happened in the past. Why did you retire after I left? If you still blame me, just say it. I'll make it up to you. Chengshou says, there's nothing to say. My retirement has nothing to do with you. Xiaochun says, if you don't want to talk, I won't force you. I just want to tell you that I've never forgotten you all these years. I'm sorry, I was young and scared back then. Chengshou, with a dismissive ear, says, stop, I don't want to hear it. Xiaochun responds, I had to say it, it should have been said back then. You were my first love. This wasn't just any statement for Xiaochun, his feelings had just begun. The first time he had an indescribable dream, he thought of Chengshou. The first time he hid under the covers for an indescribable reason, he also thought of Chengshou. In his fantasies, Chengshou was intertwined with him, accompanying him through countless indescribable days and nights. Afterwards, no matter how many attractive men and women Xiaochun met, he could never forget Chengshou, who had opened that door for him. The key point is, after thinking about it for so many years, he hadn't arrived too late. How could one not be unforgettable? Xiaochun asked whether to give a ride or not, and I came up with a better solution. Then he dragged Chengshou into the car. Cheng Shou asked what they were doing today. Dala said, we're going on a date today. Hey, young Master Xiao, long time no see. A brief introduction. The one saying hello is Ju Tong from next door, the male lead of Inherited Wealth. His Chinese name is Wen Shaohui, and his English name is Andy. Xiaochun brought Cheng Shou to a hair salon, and Andy is the owner. Xiaochun said, Andy, you've changed your nose again. Wasn't the previous one fine? Andy hooked his arm around Xiaochun's and said he strives for perfection. Xiaochun coughed unnaturally twice. Andy then noticed Li Chengshou, and they greeted each other warmly. Andy sized up Chengshou from head to toe. Chengshou felt uneasy under his gaze. Xiaochun said, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and give him a sharp haircut. Chengshou said, you want me to cut my hair? But my hair isn't long, and this isn't work. I want to go home. Xiaochun pulled Chengshou back and said, cutting your hair is also work. You represent my image as my personal chef. You're part of my image. Chengshou, you're working for me now. You have to meet the employer's demands. Chengshou hesitated, but remembering the manager's words, he reluctantly agreed to Dali's plan. Andy chimed in, let's wash your hair first. Relax a bit. Can I call you Chengshou? How did you and young Master Xiao meet? Chengshou said, he hired me to cook. We were in the same middle school. Andy understood their relationship, reminded, some things are not for me to say. But I see you're an honest person, so, Xiaochun is quite a jerk. I see you're not from this circle. Some things are inconvenient to say too much. Just be careful with him. Don't take his word for everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chengshou said thank you, thinking no need to remind. He also felt Xiaochun was too ostentatious, too unreliable. Although he always says he likes me, but it always felt strangely nervous and scared. The next moment like shunning him. Andy brought Chengshou to Xiaochun who was discussing work. Xiaochun hung up the phone. Looking at Chengshou who had his haircut, said, you look beautiful. Andy satisfiedly said, just as I imagined, I'm a genius, just short of changing his style completely. Xiaochun thought, yeah, changing clothes would be better, more beautiful. Chengshou said I'm not changing clothes. I'm just in the kitchen, he thought. Xiaochun wants to make me look good. Is just because he finds me not decent enough. Unwilling to stand with me. My clothes are not stolen or robbed. Even if they're not good looking, I won't be ashamed. Xiaochun said, Chengshou, making yourself look nice, won't you feel better too? Chengshou firmly said, I'm not an ornament. Xiaochun helplessly said, get in the car, if not buying then not buying. Chengshou asked aren't we working today? Xiaochun said, I've already said, today is a date, don't forget these 2 weeks you are mine. Xiaochun took Chengshou to a high-end residential area. Chengshou asked, what are we doing here? Xiaochun said, you'll know in a moment. As he spoke, Xiaochun brought Chengshou to a luxurious new apartment and asked if she liked it. From now on, you'll live here, he said. Within 3 days, I'll have everything fully furnished. He added, how can anyone live in the house you're in? If anything happened to you, no one would even know. Stop living in such a place. After moving here, it'll be easier for me to come by. Chengshou refused and said, why should I live here? I have my own home. Xiaochun said, I'm just concerned about you. Living in that kind of place isn't good for your health. I would feel heartbroken. Chengshou responded, thanks for your concern, but I don't feel uncomfortable. I can't live in your house. The temper of the young master of Russia was about to explode. He grabbed Chengshou and slammed her hard against the wall. What was he about to do to our Shu? Find out in the next episode. Xiaochun furrowed his brow. He didn't expect Chengshou to reject his concern so firmly. Xiaochun, angered, grabbed Chengshou. He pressed her hard against the wall again and said, Chengshou, why do you always reject my kindness? I just want to be good to you. Can't you give me a chance? Chengshou awkwardly turned her head away and said, let go of me first. Not only did Xiaochun not let go, but he got even closer. Chengshou, I want to kiss you. As he spoke, he tried to force a kiss. No matter how much Chengshou struggled, he didn't stop until she was out of breath. When he finally let go, tears welled up in her eyes. See, you have feelings for me too, don't you? Chengshou blushed and said to Xiaochun, feeling wronged, let go of me. Xiaochun said, what did you say? While Dai was not paying attention, Chengshou fiercely bit on Xiao Quan's arm without letting go. Dai slapped Xiaochun in the face, and at that moment, Chengshou pushed Xiaochun away. She ran out, but before she could make it down the stairs, Xiaochun caught her again. Dai wasn't planning on letting Xiaochun go today. Xiaochun grabbed Chengshou, apologizing, Chengshou, I'm sorry, I was just too impulsive. Chengshou pointed at Xiaochun and said, you're a bastard. Xiaochun replied, yes, I am a bastard, but Chengshou, I just like you. I couldn't control myself, Xiaochun said. Chengshou responded, I want to go home. Xiaochun reassured her, don't worry, I'll let you go home, but you have to forgive me first. Do you still remember that kiss on the rooftop all those years ago? That was our first love. I don't believe you've forgotten it. I still remember how I felt back then. It was the most beautiful feeling, like I had the whole world. Tell me, who kissed who first back then? Cheng Shu said she didn't know. Xiao Chun said, I don't know either, but I know our feelings were different. Cheng Shu, honestly tell me, back then, you liked me too, didn't you? I'm sure of it. I could feel it. I still like the old Xiao Chun, but now we've both grown up. I would never act so weak again. I'll be even better to you than I was back then. Why not give it a try and like me again, okay? Cheng Shu was silent, her face wet with tears. Xiao Chun secretly hugged Cheng Shu, thinking about the feeling at that time. We could definitely still grow together. Think about that kiss back then, remember? We just barely touched. I still remember your lips had grease, and that feeling was strangely good. Saying that, he pinched Cheng Shu's cheek and kissed her again. Cheng Shu told Xiao Chun, now that we've both grown up, Xiao Chun, actually, we've grown up. My feelings for you haven't changed. Can we give each other a chance? Cheng Shu lowered her head and hesitated, I don't know. Xiao Chun quickly said, it's okay, take your time. But please, don't reject me anymore, alright? Cheng Shu firmly said, I won't live in your house. Xiao Chun had no choice but to sigh, alright, I won't force you. I just want you to have it better. I didn't mean anything else. Cheng Shu replied, thank you. Xiao Chun touched Cheng Shu's cheek, saying, you really are stubborn. Alright, let's go. I'll take you out to eat. There's a lot of work coming up to keep you busy. In the following days, Cheng Shu and Xiao Chun met almost every day. Xiao Chun treated her to food and drinks, and treated her with even more care. Xiao Chun was gentle and considerate, while Cheng Shu, for the first time in her life, was being pursued and valued. Having someone by her side felt so special. Although Cheng Shu reminded herself every day not to get ahead of herself, she still looked forward to seeing Xiao Chun the next day. Just like when they first met, as the banquet date approached, she felt a sense of loss. No matter how good it would eventually come to an end. As the time for the banquet drew closer, he felt an unexpected sense of loss in his heart. No matter how wonderful a dream is, it has to end eventually. Suddenly, the phone rang. Thinking it might be Xiao Chun calling, he answered, but felt a bit disappointed. It was his manager, who told him that Mr. Chen had deliberately arranged a staff dormitory with excellent conditions for him. He was to move in today. Not many people at the hotel received such good treatment, so he shouldn't let Mr. Chen's kindness go to waste. Cheng Shou mentioned that he hadn't terminated his current apartment lease yet, which required a 2-month notice, or else he would lose his deposit. The manager said the hotel would take care of the deposit and urged him to pack his belongings quickly, send over his home address, and he would come to pick him up. Furniture wasn't needed as everything was fully provided there. Manager Zhang hung up before Cheng Shou could reply. Cheng Shou wondered why Manager Zhang, who usually ignored him, was suddenly so eager to help him move. It all seemed very suspicious. Upon arriving at the so-called luxury staff dormitory, Cheng Shou recognized it immediately. It was the same house Xiao Chun had shown him a few days ago. Manager Zhang said the stuff was yours once it's done. Cheng Shou quickly stopped Manager Zhang, who was about to leave, and said he couldn't live here. Manager Zhang shook off Cheng Shou's hand and said it was up to him to explain. He was only there to complete Mr. Chen's orders. Cheng Shou, you're really being unreasonable. Mr. Chen is good to you, and you refuse. Let me put it this way. If you make Xiaozong happy, everyone is happy. If Xiaozong is unhappy, all your years of hard work will be for nothing. You decide for yourself. It was getting dark. Xiao Chun returned home to find Cheng Shou squatting on the ground and asked why he didn't lock the door, wasn't he afraid of burglars, and why he didn't turn on the light. Cheng Shou retorted, aren't you the burglar, yourself? Before Cheng Shou could stand up and speak, Xiao Chun said, I know what you're going to say. Don't be mad. You must be tired from moving. Come over, I bought your favorite rice noodles. Cheng Shou said to Xiao Chun, why are you acting like this? I already said I won't live here. Xiao Chun explained, when having breakfast with your boss, I casually mentioned that your living conditions weren't great. Your boss felt bad and wanted to arrange a better single room for you, but there wasn't anything suitable available at the time. Just so happens this place is vacant, so why not rent it to someone familiar? It'd also give everyone peace of mind. Saying this, he pulled Cheng Shou to go eat, but Cheng Shou shook off his hand. You did this on purpose. Xiao Chun admitted, yes, I did it on purpose, but it's reasonable, isn't it? The house wasn't given to you by me. It's rented by your boss as employee accommodation. Xiao Chun coaxed, don't be mad, okay? I know it wasn't right not to discuss it with you beforehand, but you reacted too strongly before. I was afraid you'd back out if you knew. The truth is, I feel sorry for you. I just want to be nice to you. But you always reject my good intentions, and it hurts me to think about you living in that kind of place. It's so hot in the summer, the transportation isn't convenient, and the security is bad. Cheng Shou, I care about you. I'm worried about you, don't you understand? Do you still remember when we were kids? I always brought you good food, and later I even rented a place just for you. Back then, you didn't want my food, didn't want to live in my place. But as kids, I used to scare people with my fists. You were afraid of me, so you had no choice but to accept. At the time, I only wanted to be good to you. When you refused, I got angry. It's the same now. I just want to be good to you, but I won't scare you anymore. If you refuse, I'll be very sad. Seeing Cheng Shu's expression soften, Xiao Chun took the opportunity to grab Cheng Shu's hand and said, "Doesn't this place feel like home? When I see it, I think of the house we rented back then and our beautiful memories. Don't you feel nostalgic at all?" Taking the chance to get closer, Xiao Chun quickly kissed Cheng Shu on the cheek. Cheng Shu's face instantly turned red, but Xiao Chun shamelessly grabbed Cheng Shu and hugged him, happily saying, "Little Cheng Shu, you didn't refuse. Does this mean I've already succeeded?" Holding Cheng Shu's face, he said, "Have you fallen for me?" Xiao Chun held Cheng Shu's face and asked, "Have you fallen for me?" Cheng Shu turned her face away and said, "No, I don't know." Seeing Cheng Shu's shy demeanor, Xiao Chun said, "All right. I won't press you anymore, you'll admit it sooner or later. Come on, don't let my darling go hungry, let's eat." After dinner, Cheng Shu also folded the last piece of clothing. At that moment, Xiao Chun brewed a pot of tea, inviting Cheng Shu to come to the balcony to rest after packing her luggage. Xiao Chun asked Cheng Shu if she liked the environment here, to which Cheng Shu replied she did, thanking him and noting the nice breeze, saying even in the daytime it wasn't too hot, so she wouldn't worry about him getting heatstroke if they lived here. "The natural breeze is nice, better than air conditioning," said Cheng Shu. The elder brother, planning mischief, slowly moved closer to Cheng Shu, touching his face and said, "The day after tomorrow you'll start work, it'll be a busy whole day. Are you ready?" Cheng Shu assured him there was no need to worry, as that was her specialty. Xiao Chun added sentimentally, "But once you're busy, we can't see each other every day. I'll really miss you." As his fingers gently touched Shu's lips, "Cheng Shu, be mine. I will treat you well." Xiao Chun saw that Cheng Shu was hesitant. He continued, "Are you still going to say you don't know? Cheng Shu, you're an adult now. Don't you even know what you want? Look at me. Let me ask you, do you hate me?" Cheng Shu shook her head indicating she didn't. "Then are you happy when you're with me?" At this moment, Cheng Shu blushed and tacitly agreed. "If that's the case, why can't we be together? I can give you a life beyond your imagination." Cheng Shu replied, "We're not suitable." Xiao Chun, unwilling to give up, asked, "Why do you think that? In what way are we not suitable?" Cheng Shu thought to herself, "We're incompatible in every way. I've never made much progress since I was young, and I still feel uncertain about the future. But Xiao Chun remains so outstanding and brilliant. I can't understand why he likes me. It all feels like a dream. If I take one more step forward, will I accidentally wake from this dream?" Xiao Chun then said, "Cheng Shu, I like you. You just need to stay with me. Don't worry about all those other things." Cheng Shu pushed Xiao Chun away and said, "I need to think about it more." Xiao Chun had no choice but to say, "All right, I'll give you more time." Before he could finish, Xiao Chun's phone rang. He glanced at it and got up to leave, saying he needed to take the call. It was Awen calling, saying they were all coming to the party. Xiao Chun replied, "Damn, all of you are coming just to see Li Cheng Shu? Don't you have anything better to do?" "Yeah, I'm with him right now, still trying to win him over. Enough for tonight. We're civilized people here, not about to resort to brute force. If I touch him even a little, he looks ready to scratch me. Of course there's no problem. If I can't handle one little girl, can I still call myself Xiao Chun? You have no idea how patient I am with him. But I'm warning you, you can come, but don't mess up my plans." After hanging up the phone, Xiao Chun's expression changed so quickly. He walked over to Cheng Shu and suddenly picked up Cheng Shane, who was almost asleep. Cheng Shu, startled, said, "Put me down, I just dozed off for a bit." Xiao Chun coaxed, "Don't move around, if you keep moving, I'll throw you off the balcony." Cheng Shu hurriedly grabbed Xiao Chun's neck and said, "I can walk by myself." Xiao Chun replied, "I have to carry my wife into the bridal chamber, right? Why are you in such a hurry? Are you saying I'm carrying you too slowly?" When they got to the bedroom, Xiao Chun tossed Cheng Shu onto the bed. He got on top of him, and Cheng Shu nervously asked, "What are you doing?" Xiao Chun said, "Why are you so nervous? Do you think I'd force myself on you?" As he pressed himself closer, he said, "I'm just hugging you like when we were kids." Cheng Shu thought to himself, a heartbeat never lies. People always say when you like someone, your heart races. He felt like his heart was about to leap out of his throat, and he could feel Xiao Chun's heartbeat too, just as fast. Does this mean he likes me too? The day of the party arrived quickly. Cheng Shu stood on the pier listening to the staff introducing the luxury yacht in front of him, mentioning that today's guests were distinguished, not many, but everything prepared was exquisite. Chef Li Let's hurry to the kitchen and start preparing. As soon as Cheng Shu entered the kitchen, he got into a serious working mode, skillfully handling a variety of ingredients. The staff said that the preparations were almost done. Go upstairs, the boss is waiting for you. When Xiao Chun saw Cheng Shu coming up, he quickly grabbed him and pulled him to the railing. Cheng Shu awkwardly looked around. Xiao Chun said, "It's okay, there's no one here. Even if there was, so what? This boat is my private property." "You too," Cheng Shu blushed, thinking to himself, are we really in a relationship now? Xiao Chun is so natural about it. We've kissed, we've hugged. Wouldn't it be a bit pretentious not to admit it? Xiao Chun held Cheng Shu and said, "You must be tired. You've been busy since the morning until now. After today, take a few days to rest. I'll talk to your boss." Cheng Shu agreed. Xiao Chun asked him, "Is this tanker beautiful?" Cheng Shu said it was very beautiful. Xiao Chun then started talking about the origin of the tanker and added, "This is nothing. When I get rich, I'll buy a bigger one." Cheng Shu looked at Xiao Chun with admiration and said, "You're amazing." Suddenly, Xiao Chun, blushing, pulled Cheng Shu and said, "Come inside and sit. The wind is strong outside." Once they were in the second-floor bedroom, Xiao Chun locked the door and pushed Cheng Shu against the wall. He tightly held Cheng Shu's waist. No matter how much Cheng Shu struggled, it was no use. Only when Cheng Shu was almost out of breath did Xiao Chun let go. Then he pushed him onto the bed. A startled Cheng Shu hurriedly grabbed Xiao Chun and asked, "What are you doing?" Xiao Chun said, "Don't be scared, Cheng Shu. We're both men. Don't you have needs too? Give yourself to me, okay?" As he spoke, he started lifting Cheng Shu's shirt with his hands. Shu Shou dodged and expressed her fear. Xiao Chun was very annoyed, thinking, "Damn, I've spent over a month on this, acting all nice, and now when it's finally time to succeed, I can't even take a bite. That's what I think, but I have to keep up the act, or all my efforts will be wasted." So he hugged Cheng Shu Shou, gently coaxing her, "It's okay, don't be afraid. If you don't want to, I won't force you. I will respect your wishes." Cheng Shu Shou pushed Xiao Chun away, saying she was still busy with work and left first. Xiao Chun watched her leave, muttering, "This person is such a hassle, really a mood killer." After finishing her work, a staff member told Cheng Shu Shou, "The boss is still waiting for you in that daytime room." Cheng Shu Shou nodded, "Okay." At that moment, Xiao Chun came out with a glass of red wine, asking Cheng Shu Shou, "Finished with work? Are you tired?" He leaned closer to Cheng Shu Shou, smelling of marinade, and hurried her to take a shower as the clothes were already prepared. Cheng Shu Shou asked, "What are you up to?" Xiao Chun pushed her towards the bathroom, saying he was taking her to a party. Cheng Shu Shou didn't want to go, but Xiao Chun assertively said, "Give you 20 minutes, hurry up and wash. There's a surprise waiting for you later." Zhao Ji mentioned that Xiao Chun insists on taking Cheng Shu Shou to the party and has a surprise for her. Xiao Chun, probably getting a bit impatient, pushed open the bathroom door and asked Cheng Shu Shou, "Are you done?" Xiao Chun looked at the clothes he had carefully prepared for him, thinking to himself that clothes indeed make the man. Dressed like this, he looks exceptionally fair and delicate, and it even brightens his spirit. While thinking, he placed his hand on his shoulder. "Baby, you look so good in this, I almost don't want to take you out. Let's go out. I'll introduce you to a few people." Xiao Chun took Cheng Shu to meet a few people. Cheng Shu saw the people he disliked the most and felt a strong aversion. He thought, didn't Xiao Chun say I wouldn't have to meet them if I didn't want to? Zhou Li tiredly said with irritability, "Monster, it really is Li Chengshu. Do you remember me?" Xiao Chun noticed Chengshu's nervousness and hurriedly explained, "It's them who insisted on coming. I can't control their legs, can I?" Xiao Chun then warned Zhou Li, "Don't scare him." Zhou Li teased, "Starting to show affection already? I'm just getting closer to talk. Look, you're already concerned for him." Li Wenchun also stepped forward to greet Chengshu. "Li Chengshu, long time no see. You and Xiao Chun really are fated. To think you'd run into each other again after so many years. We were all quite surprised when he told us." Chengshu resented these people and didn't want to speak at all. Xiao Chun handed Chengshu a glass of fruit wine. "We're old schoolmates meeting in a different place. You have to drink a glass no matter what." Li Wenchun hypocritically said, "We were immature when we were kids. Thinking about it now, it seems pretty childish and ridiculous. You look uncomfortable. Are you still angry about what happened back then? Let me and a few brothers drink first as a way to apologize, okay?" Saying this, he finished his drink in one gulp. Zhou Lixi, grinning, said, "Ah Wen, that's thoughtful of you. Then I'll drink too. Come to think of it, I even fought you back then. Ah, it's been so long, who remembers now? I'll finish this glass too." Chengshu thought bitterly, to them, it's just a ridiculous thing they did as children, but it ruined my future. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have encountered such harsh situations at school. If I had gone home earlier, perhaps my mother could have been saved in time. Although sometimes I feel that a person's fate is preordained, and Xiaochun and the others just added to what was bound to happen, I still can't completely let go. Seeing them still fills me with disgust. Xiaochun also mentioned that Cheng Shu should give them some face since they all apologized. At this point, Cheng Shu didn't want to say much. He picked up his glass and downed it in one go. They were all acting appropriately around Xiaochun, planning to get Cheng Shu drunk. One by one, they kept pouring drinks for Cheng Shu. Cheng Shu felt the alcohol tasted like a beverage and thought he wouldn't get drunk easily. They successfully got Cheng Shu drunk. Xiaochun threw the unconscious Cheng Shu onto the bed and locked the door. Xiaochun wore a smug expression, thinking back to the days when he didn't get to taste him. Luckily, he ran into him again. Although it wasn't as great as when they were younger, it wasn't too bad either. He vowed to take full advantage today, to compensate for his youthful regrets. Saying that, he started to undress Cheng Shu and moved on top of him. Just as he was turning Cheng Shu over and over again, Cheng Shu suddenly woke up, his eyes wide open before he could speak. He was immediately pinned down again by Xiaochun, who forbade him from struggling any further. Thinking to himself, since he's been developing his career in Shenzhen lately, it might be necessary to keep such a well-informed little plaything to pass the time. He was somewhat annoyed but liked the inherent submissiveness and quietness in him, which he considered a plus. After Cheng Shu came to his senses, he felt an indescribable pain somewhere, wondering why it hurt so much there. This is when Shusho sees Xiaochun right by her side. Xiaochun opens his eyes and says, "Baby, you're awake?" Shusho quickly sits up, covering her chest, too flustered to speak. Xiaochun looks at Shusho calmly and says, "You were really passionate last night, much to my surprise." Last night was unforgettable. Shusho was panicked when she heard what Big Goose said. Her eyes widened in disbelief, saying it's impossible. "Drunk," Xiaochun said. "If you weren't drunk, you wouldn't have been so enthusiastic." As he spoke, he moved closer to Cheng Shusho. "But I really wish you would get drunk every day." At that moment, Cheng Shusho suddenly pushed Xiaochun away. "I was drunk, I didn't agree to this." Xiao Dagoose actually turned the tables, saying, "Cheng Shusho, what do you mean? Are you suggesting I forced you? I thought we both liked each other. Am I just deluding myself? You don't even remember what happened yesterday. How can you wake up and accuse me like this?" Xiao Quan's counterattack left Cheng Shusho stunned, wondering if she really behaved inappropriately while drunk yesterday. "But even so, isn't this taking advantage of someone?" Cheng Shusho said, "I don't remember, but you shouldn't have." Before Cheng Shusho could finish, Xiaochun interrupted her. He said, "Last night, you weren't like this. You were much more honest and cute than you are now. I'm a normal man, and I like you. How could I resist?" "Cheng Shusho, don't you like me too? Am I deluding myself? You clearly like me too, right? If so, what's wrong with what we did? I know you're just too nervous. Don't be afraid, relax. To be mine, this pain is inevitable, but you'll like it later." Cheng Shusho pushed Xiaochun away, got up, and ran out saying, "I want to go home." Opening the door, she saw the endless sea. Xiaochun followed and said, "Baby, we are at sea now. I'll take you home tomorrow. There's no one else on the boat. Let's consider it our honeymoon, okay?" he said as he picked up Cheng Shu to go take a bath. Cheng Shu unwillingly said, "I don't want to bathe." Xiaochun asked if he was still angry, and then he got into the tub himself. His hands were restless. Cheng Shu struggled and said, "What are you doing?" Xiaochun replied, "I'll let you taste the joy of this. Who told you to forget?" So they bathed together. After Cheng Shu finished bathing, he wanted to leave. Xiaochun grabbed Cheng Shu's waist and said, "You are so ungrateful. You want to run away after enjoying yourself. What should I do?" With that, he made Cheng Shu wash again in front of the mirror. Cheng Shu thought, "He said he did this because he liked me. Can I really trust him?" After they finished bathing, Xiaochun prepared a sumptuous candlelit meal for Cheng on the deck. Xiaochun raised his glass and asked Cheng Shu if he liked it. Cheng Shu lowered his head, admitting that he really liked it. Xiaochun thought to himself, "I knew this kind of thing would work on him. Don't all women like these useless things?" Li Cheng Shu was flattered by Xiao Quan's meticulous care. These past few days, Xiao Quan's enthusiasm and tenderness towards him made his heart race and his face flush with every word and action, leaving him at a loss. Before this, Cheng Shu had never imagined that someone would cherish him so dearly, treating him with such reverence. He was on tenterhooks, enjoying the close bond with Xiaochun and the wonderful feeling of being cared for. He feared that one wrong step would send him plummeting from the clouds. Xiaochun walked Cheng Shu to his doorstep, saying he really wished to stay with him tonight, but he had to accompany Ah Wen and the others. "It's rare for the four of us to get together." Seeing Cheng Shu unhappy, Chun asked what was wrong. "Do you still remember the past? Why are you so petty? They are my buddies. You should love them as you love me, you know?" And then he pointed to his own face for a kiss. The next day, Cheng Shu encountered manager Zhang in the restaurant, who said sarcastically, "Oh, Li Cheng Shu has finally come back to work. How have you been recently? How did it go? Did you make enough this time?" Cheng Shu-xin wondered what this meant. She hadn't received any compensation, but given her current relationship with Xiao Chun, it seemed like it wasn't the kind that warranted compensation. Manager Zhang continued, saying no matter what, getting the big house job was a score. This private gig was truly worth it. Cheng Shu asked what he meant. Manager Zhang laughed and said, "Oh, come on, why pretend with me? I was the one who brought you to that house. Don't be nervous, I was just asking. Now that you're back, just focus on your work." Cheng Shu, already feeling uneasy about her clandestine relationship with Xiao Chun, and her colleagues were also gossiping. The big boss's cue is easy money. No need to work ourselves to death like us. Being a head chef, who knows what else she might do there? Why else would she get so much? I wouldn't want to do that sort of selling out. The colleague's suspicions made Cheng Shu extremely anxious. When Cheng Shu got home, she wondered why the lights were on. She was sure she had turned them off when she left. Cheng Shu saw Xiao Chun in her home and asked, "How do you have the keys?" Xiao Chun replied, "This is my house. How could I not have the keys? Why have you been unreachable all day? Do you always work this late? It's almost 11 p.m. Cheng Shu said she had to turn off her phone at work and that there were morning and evening shifts. Xiao Chun said he hadn't eaten yet. "I've been waiting for you until now. I wanted to have dinner with you, but you're only just getting back." Cheng Shu said, "I have some takeout food." Xiao Chun refused, saying, "You want me to eat someone else's leftovers?" Cheng Shu quickly offered, "Then I'll cook for you." Xiao Chun said there was no need, then hugged Cheng Shu, commenting on the smell of cooking oil. "Let's go take a shower together." Cheng Shu modestly said, "That wouldn't be appropriate." Xiao Chun pushed Cheng Shu towards the bathroom. "It's not like we haven't done it before. After washing, don't run. Stay still. I'm not planning to do anything, but if you keep moving around, I can't guarantee anything." Cheng Shu thought that Xiao Chun, who seemed quite domineering, stayed as if it were only natural. Staying over didn't even require his opinion. After all, this is his house. But he clearly said he rented it to Mr. Chen, who used it as a staff dormitory for me. How can he just come in and stay whenever he wants? I've grown up accustomed to others disrespecting me. I thought after spending time together, Xiao Chun would be different from others. I didn't expect anything to change. Xiao Chun, holding Cheng Shu, said, "Let me tell you something. Quit your job. What's the point of doing that kind of work? It's dirty and tiring. You don't need to work if you're with me. Quit your job. Instead of working yourself to death every day, you'd be better off staying home and taking care of me." Cheng Shu pushed Xiao Chun away, saying, "I can't quit. That's my job." Cheng Shu said, "Let me tell you something. Quit your job. What's the point of doing that kind of work? It's dirty and tiring. You don't need to work if you're with me. Instead of working myself to death every day, I might as well stay at home and take care of me." Cheng Shu doesn't want to quit. "This is my job." Xiao Chun said, "Earning 2,000 or 3,000 a month, what's the point? If I ask you to quit, I won't let you suffer. Would 50,000 a month be enough for you?" Cheng Shu was so angry that she trembled all over. "I don't need your support. Thinking he treats me as what? Wants to keep me as a mistress with money? I always thought we were mutually in love, freely in love." Xiao Chun impatiently said, "What's wrong with you? I can make your life good, no need to work, just enjoy. It's better than you working hard for that little money." Cheng Shu said, "I'm not that kind of woman. I can support myself." Xiao Chun was startled by her words and hurriedly explained, "You misunderstood. I didn't mean that. You leave early and return late every day, and it hurts me to see. I just want you to have a better life and to see you every day. If you don't want to quit, forget it." Xiao Chun started to play the victim. "But I'm alone in Shenzhen, without relatives and friends, and usually, I don't even have someone to take care of me." Hearing him say this, Cheng Shu felt somewhat sympathetic and said, "I can change shifts. I can make breakfast and dinner for you." Growing up like this, encountering a pie falling from the sky and not daring to pick it up, since I can't persuade him, let him quit on his own. Early the next morning when Xiao Chun woke up, he didn't see Li Cheng Shu. Xiao Chun saw the breakfast Cheng Shu had carefully prepared for him on the dining table, thinking to myself that this is the material born to serve men. "Hello, Manager Zhang, it's me. I need to ask you a favor privately." A call from Xiao Chun made Li Chengshu's job at the hotel more difficult. Colleagues mocked and ridiculed Chengshu. "Society is very open now, we don't discriminate against gays. Gays are also people in need to date. Having the chance to date a big boss is really a step to heaven." Besides facing the gossips from colleagues, he also had to deal with the leadership's sarcastic education. Li Chengshu, "Actually, everyone knows about you and President Xiao. I hope you can be more careful in the future and do not get too close to male employees. And do not take advantage of your relationship with President Xiao to seek special treatment. As the department manager, I can't force you to resign, but I hope you can understand my position and make my work go more smoothly. It's really difficult for me with you here. But Li Chengshou didn't want to resign. He had worked hard to achieve today's success. To resign would mean to abandon all his efforts. At this moment, Xiao Chun sent Chengshou sweet nothings, like a warm hand soothing Li Chengshou's troubled heart. Having Xiao Chun by his side, even if it might mean losing his job, seemed worthwhile. The next day, having agreed to have dinner at home with Xiao Chun, Chengshou prepared a table full of dishes early in anticipation of Xiao Quan's return. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Chengshou's first reaction was that Xiao Chun had come back. "Hello Mr. Li. I am Mr. Xiao's. My surname is Zhou. Mr. Xiao couldn't make it today. He asked me to deliver some daily necessities and clothes for changing. These are the things he usually uses. Please organize them. As Mr. Xiao's assistant, I have the responsibility to ensure that his life is orderly so that he can focus more on his work. This document contains his habits and things to note. In the future, Mr. Xiao's overnight stays here will increase significantly. I hope this can help you both live more harmoniously and happily." Cheng Shu, holding the documents, became more and more angry. Does he treat me as Xiao Quan's QF? In a rage, he threw the documents into the trash can, knowing that Xiao Chun and he were not suitable, yet unable to resist being attracted. This was just the beginning. What would happen later? Suddenly, in the middle of the night, someone hugged the sleeping Cheng Shu. Frightened, Shu hurriedly asked who it was. Cheng Shu was in deep sleep when suddenly someone hugged him. Frightened, Shu hurriedly asked, "Who is it?" Dajie said, "It's me. I was so busy today, I'm exhausted." Cheng Shu smelled a strong scent of smoke and alcohol on Xiao Chun, presumably from entertaining. At this moment, Xiao Quan's hands became restless, grabbing Cheng Shu's pants. Cheng Shu struggled to stop Xiao Chun. Impatiently, Xiao Chun said, "How long do you want me to wait? It's not like we haven't done it before." Cheng Shu struggled, saying, "You're drunk." "I'm not drunk. Even drunk, I'm more than capable." Cheng Shu used all his strength to push Xiao Chun away. Seeing the drunk person in front of her, Cheng Shu trembled with anger. Xiao Chun furiously cursed and left in disillusionment after slamming the door. Cheng Shu thought to herself that Xiao Chun didn't even take off his coat or shoes and went straight to bed as soon as he entered the door, wondering what he really thought of her. Li Cheng Shu's days at the hotel became increasingly unbearable as various unspeakable rumors spread throughout the hotel. Manager Zhang even came to talk to him the next day, with each conversation growing harsher, making him feel shameless to stay and considering resigning due to mental and physical exhaustion. After work, someone suddenly blocked Cheng Shu's way and said they needed to talk. In a sarcastic tone, they said, "Since you're with a rich man now, better enjoy it early. I won't waste words with you. You're blocking the way here, do you know? The head chef is retiring next year. Many are more suitable than you. Others still need this job to support their families. Be practical and save some face for yourself. Hurry up and scram. How long do you plan to stick around? Do you want to force others to drink the penalty wine?" As they were about to hit Cheng Shu, Xiao Chun suddenly appeared and said, "What the hell are you doing? Let him go immediately." He thought Manager Zhang planned to force Cheng Shu out, but he didn't ask him to find a bunch of fools to start a fight. This SB, Xiao Chun, bravely protected his wife and started fighting with those people. At this moment, Manager Zhang ran over and asked what was going on. Seeing that Xiao Chun also had injuries on his face, he quickly apologized, saying he didn't manage his people well. Cheng Shu supported Xiao Chun and asked worriedly, "Are you okay? Does it hurt?" Xiao Chun said dismissively, "It doesn't hurt. When I was in England, I fought with the lambs every day. That was brutal. What are these SBS?" After they got home, Cheng Shu treated Xiao Quan's wounds. Seeing his wounds, she cried with heartache and said, "I'm sorry." Xiao Chun said that he should be the one apologizing, as he drank too much last night. He pretended to be pitiful, saying, "I'm a normal man. Sometimes I can't control myself, can you understand?" Saying this, he pushed Cheng Shu down and kissed her, thinking to himself, "Thinking that today's show is really worth it." At this moment the shy Cheng Shu still remembered not to pull the curtains. He said, "Not here." Xiao Chun said, "It must be here because the lighting is good and I can take a good look at you. You also take a good look at me." Cheng Shu hurriedly covered his eyes and said, "Look at what?" Xiao Chun shamelessly said, "Look at your first man. Why are you so shy? Bear with me for a bit, okay? Just cooperate with me a few more times and it'll be fine. It will be over soon." Next, Xiao Chun made a call to the hotel owner for Cheng Shu. He helped Cheng Shu resign. Xiao Chun threw a handful of red bills to Cheng Shu. Holding the thick wad, Cheng Shu said it was too much. Big Goose said, "This is what you deserve, take it." Cheng Shu gave a slight smile to Xiao Chun to express his gratitude. This smile stunned Big Goose, swallowing hard, truly beautiful. Approaching Cheng Shu, he said, "You've been busy for so long, it's rare to have a break. Take a good rest for a while." Cheng Shu said after a few days of rest, he would look for a job. Xiao Chun thought to himself that he would never let any hotel hire him. From then on, the cohabitation life of the two officially began. Li Chengsho's submitted resumes received no responses, and Xiao Chun often cancelled plans without reason, not even bothering to call, letting the table full of dishes Li had painstakingly prepared go to waste. Occasionally when Xiao Chun came back, he was only interested in dragging him to do that kind of thing. Li felt somewhat resentful but could only comply. He vaguely felt that his relationship with Xiao Chun was somewhat strange, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. 2 months passed and Li Chengsho started job hunting again. Fortunately, he finally got hired by a small restaurant. However, this caused Xiao Quan's dissatisfaction. When Chengsho came back from work and saw that Xiao Chun was already home, he hurriedly said, "Are you hungry? I'll go cook." Xiao Chun irritably said, "Go take a shower before cooking. You're all covered in the smell of the kitchen." "Just the smell is enough to make me feel full," thought Xiao Chun with a complaint. "Coming back every day smelling of grease, trying to keep clean. The smell of garlic is stuck between my fingernails. I'm tired and want to rest in his arms, but that smell is really a mood killer." But he's a rare considerate person, gentle and obedient, more so than any woman. Besides insisting on selling his cheap labor, he's the most to my liking that I've raised so far. I don't want to end it for now. If he could just obediently stay at home, that would be perfect. I could pamper him for a long time. Not to mention, swapping around is troublesome, and the key point is it's unhygienic, Xiao Chun thought as he saw Chengsho coming out of the shower, carrying a freshly cleaned scent, and hugged Chengsho. "From tomorrow on, don't go to work. Just stay at home. It's not like I can't afford you. If you want money, I'll give it to you. I don't want my person to be away from me all day, making it seem like he's busier than me." Cheng Shu wouldn't agree, and Xiao Chun impatiently said, "What's wrong with you?" Cheng Shu said it was to pay for his mother's medical treatment at the time. Xiao Chun said, "How much is owed?" "No matter how much, I'll pay it for you." Cheng Shu refused adamantly. "I can pay it myself, Xiao Chun." Xiao Dai got angry, threw Cheng Shu out of his arms, turned around and left, saying, "You're really sick." Our silly Shusho naively thought, "Xiao Chun doesn't want me to work too hard, it's for my own good, right? But I have to earn it, I can't spend Xiao Quan's money. This isn't normal, I should text him to explain." Dai received Cheng Shu's message and sarcastically said, "Is this the cheap pride of the poor? It's ridiculous. In all my years, I've never seen such chastity and high self-esteem. In the end, the reason for not giving in is nothing more than not offering enough. It should be I haven't given Li Chengshu anything substantial, which makes him lack a sense of security. I was impatient today, I forgot he responds better to kindness than force. Li Chengshu, with his kind of personality, looks weak and cowardly, but is extremely stubborn at heart. Let's give him this house, and with a little coaxing, I hope he can be more sensible." Xiao Chun returned, hugged Shusho, and apologized, "I was too hasty just now." Shusho said it was okay, and Dai hugged Shusho and left. "Let's go somewhere else." After some maneuvering, both of them were hungry. Cheng Shu asked what to eat. "Anything you make is delicious." Xiao Chun leaned against the door frame, watching Cheng Shu cook, casually thinking, "I never thought I could see a reflection of home in a little lover. He takes care of me like a nanny, never asking for anything. No matter what he does, he quietly stays by my side. Sometimes, I feel like I have a pet that can do all the housework, talk to me, and do that thing with me, and it's particularly easy to take care of. How can there be something so satisfactory in the world?" So he approached Cheng Shu and hugged him. Cheng Shu asked why. "I'm cooking. I'm just holding you for a while, not doing anything else." "You keep cooking." Xiao Chun thought about how his business in the Pearl River Delta had just started. He needed someone so considerate to relieve his stress. "I can't bear to part with him now." Xiao Chun picked up Cheng Shu's self-study accounting book and asked how it was going. Cheng Shu complained that it was hard. It started off simple but got increasingly difficult, and there was no one to ask for help. Xiao Quan's little plan to keep Cheng Shu from working was stirring again. "Cheng Shu, don't go to work. I'll enroll you in an accounting class. You can take the course. Didn't you say you don't want to be a chef forever? Accounting is a good profession. You're meticulous, cautious, and can endure hardship. It's perfect for you. Accounting is a profound field, and self-study is far from enough. Self-study is far from enough. You must have professional guidance. Once you get started, I will find an accountant to tutor you specifically. If you do well, you can work at my company." Cheng Shu was a bit tempted to work at Xiao Quan's company. That way, I could see him every day and get a chance to learn about his life. But what about the debts? Xiao Chun patiently persuaded, "Don't worry, I respect your wishes. You can think it over carefully. After all, this is good for you. And why are you being so distant with me? The more distant you are, the sadder I get. I won't force you. Take your time to think. 5 days later, Xiao Chun said, Cheng Shu, I have a gift for you. Cheng Shu looked at Xiao Chun. He poured out a lot of paper slips from a file bag and picked one up to look at. Aren't these the IOUs I wrote when my mother was sick, and I was desperate, kneeling on the street asking for help from old family friends? Over the years, these IOUs have been a heavy burden on my mind, suffocating me. Xiao Chun saved me. Cheng Shu hugged Xiao Chun tightly and said thank you. If the assistant hadn't told Xiao Chun about this, he couldn't have imagined how hard life was for Li Chengshou as a child, taking care of a paralyzed mother and humbly borrowing from house to house. He was only 13 or 14 then. It's unimaginable how he made it through. Holding this thin and solitary man in his arms, Xiao Chun felt a sense of compassion for the first time and an undeniable admiration. Li Chengshou finally said goodbye to the past and had a new goal. Most importantly, he had found a lover. Now, his heart was filled with gratitude and affection for Xiao Chun. For the first time, he felt that fate was kind to him by sending Xiao Chun to his side. Although it was also a matter of debt, for Li Chengshou, it was rather a motivation, urging him to study hard to repay everything Xiao Chun had done for him. But Xiao Chun didn't care. He only wanted the compensation he was truly interested in. In the accounting training class, an MV approached to start a conversation. The teacher who will teach us later, I heard that they hired a shareholder from our class, that very impressive accountant, the owner of the accounting firm. If we perform well, we might even intern at his firm. Speaking of which, she leaned closer to Chengshou. I also heard that this boss is really handsome. Then a young man entered. Hello everyone, I'm pleased to meet you all. Let me introduce myself, my name is Li Shuo. Today, I will be taking over Mr. Chen's classes in the afternoon. Sitting next to Chengshou was a huge fan, her eyes shining brightly. How can there be such a charming man? Li Shuo holding the roster said, I'll have a student answer this question. He picked Ji Cece, a young and beautiful lady. I'm really lucky. It turns out to be the big fan next to Chengshou. She was just staring at the handsome guy and didn't listen to the class at all. Chengshou quietly reminded her, and Li Shuo, seeing Chengshou so proactive, said, let's have this gentleman next to you answer first. He has been trying to help you. I should give him this opportunity. The girl beside said, Teacher, this student is very shy. He can't speak in front of so many people. But he will manage. Let him come up and write. It will be a good demonstration too. Don't be nervous. Even if you make a mistake, I won't make you stand as punishment. Cheng wrote down the calculation process on the blackboard with ease. Li Shuo also gave him an appreciative look. Very good, thank you, sir. What's your honorable surname? Cheng Shuyan? Simplified that to Li. Thank you, Mr. Li. You have beautifully succeeded as a hero. After class, it started raining heavily outside. Cheng Shu thought to himself, what should I do? The rain isn't stopping. If I don't go back to cook now, Xiao Chun will be back. Never mind, I'll just run back. A car stopped in front of Cheng Shu. Mr. Li, quickly get in the car, Li Shuo said. Come on, it's inconvenient in the rain. I'll give you a ride. Cheng Shu said, I am completely soaked. Li Shuo said, it doesn't matter. I have to wash the car anyway because of the rain. Come on, get in. After getting in the car, Li Shuo asked a question and Shu Shu responded. The silence in the car was very awkward. Li Shuo thought to himself that he rarely meets such a reclusive person. Even I don't know how to communicate with him. Mr. Li is exactly my type. It would be nice to have him accompany me for a ride. Thank you for driving me home today. After they shook hands, Li Shuo gave Cheng Shu a business card, all of which was seen by Xiao Dagus. When Cheng Shu got home, she saw Xiao Chun sitting on the sofa with a dark face. She asked him why he came back so early. Xiao Chun grimly said he could have been back earlier if her phone hadn't been off. He left work early to pick her up because of the rain, only to find her phone off, making him go on a wasted trip. Who was the person who drove you back? Dagus thought today, with no interest in work and it raining, he might as well take Cheng Shu out for a meal and a hot spring bath, to have a romantic time and a good rest. But it was all for naught. He was also worried about how she'd get back in such heavy rain, so restless, he kept going to the balcony to check. Then he saw her getting off a luxury car, laughing and saying goodbye to the driver. Although he couldn't see clearly who it was, from their handshake, it was apparent it was a young man. Cheng Shu said that was a teacher, an accounting teacher from an introductory course. Driving a luxury car, tell me the truth. How could he possibly be your teacher? Cheng Shu explained that the tutoring class was jointly organized with the accounting firm. He gave lectures and Xiao Chun persistently asked why only you were sent among so many students. Grabbing Cheng Shu's hand, he thought, in the future, I should be more vigilant to guard against other wild animals. Although I don't mind a companion's past, once you're with me, you must be clean. I definitely don't want to catch any unhealthy disease. I don't want to catch any unhealthy diseases. Maybe when there's time, I should take Li Changshu for a full body checkup. Previous fixed partners have all been through this. It's just that he had no experience and I momentarily forgot. But thinking about his previous living environment, this step is still necessary, just to be safe. Last episode, Li Changshu was sent home by a stranger. Xiao Chun was secretly jealous. It seems that I have to be more cautious in the future, guarding against other beasts, and also take Changshu for a full body checkup, fearing catching any unhealthy diseases from him. Getting close to Changshu, who used the same brand of perfume, I smelled the same scent as the perfume I just bought. Pushing Changshu away, this nouveau riche's taste is really bad. Hurry up and take a shower, you stink to death. Changshu thought aggrievedly, I'm not working at the restaurant anymore, how can he still dislike my smell? Xiao Chun with a snort, opened the door, grabbed the same brand of perfume as Li Shuo, forcefully throwing it into the trash can, scaring Shusho on the side with her little fists. Watching the big goose inexplicably flare up, she was also at a loss. After taking a shower and seeing Xiao Chun still sulking, he asked why he was angry. The editor thinks that this reason is also not convincing. Changshu hurriedly said, then I'll go cook. Xiao Chun hugged Changshu from behind. Changshu thought Xiao Chun came to see if he had finished, so he said it will be ready soon. Xiao Quan's hands mischievously reached into Shusho's clothes, startling Changshu to scream, what are you doing? Don't move, you do your cooking. The big goose hugged Changshu just to cuddle, also saying don't stop, continue cooking. Changshu said, how can I cook like this? The goose shamelessly said to finish this dish. Whenever you finish, I'll be done. Xiao Chun warned. In the future, whether it's raining or hailing, call me. Even if I can't go myself, I'll have the driver pick you up. Don't take someone else's car, got it? There are many bad people nowadays. I'm doing this for your good. This weekend, I'll take you to the hot springs. After we're all cozy, the dish will be done. Good children don't imitate, it wastes food. After dinner on the weekend, Xiao Chun said he would take Changshu to see the hot springs here. Each room has a private hot spring pool, clean and hygienic. Xiao Chun patted Changshu's little butt. You haven't soaked in water with me yet, have you? Changshu said, I just had dinner, let's rest for a bit. Xiao Chun eagerly hugged Changshu. No, I want to soak now. Xiao Chun and Li Changshu were playing in the water when Xiao Chun suddenly cornered him. His hand reached down, and Changshu shyly turned away. Xiao Chun mischievously said, you seem to be inviting me, darling. Changshu's face turned even redder. I didn't. Xiao Chun thought that he always took precautions before. No one ever got special treatment, that's my rule. Changshu, with a flushed face, glanced back at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun was stunned, damn. And then someone reached out to grab Changshu. Let's make an exception this time. He went back and forth with Changshu, omitting 500 words here. The noise next door is so loud, even louder than Li Changshu. Changshu said he was sleepy. Xiao Chun gently stroked Changshu's hair and said, you go ahead and sleep. I'll go to the billiard room to play for a while. As Xiao Chun walked to the lobby, someone called him. The person introduced himself, saying, I live next door to you. Xiao Chun was stunned by the sight of the handsome boy in front of him. So it was you making all that noise just now. The boy said, you started first. If we didn't outdo you, it would have been disappointing for us. He pulled Xiao Chun aside and said, I like your type the most. Xiao Chun, full of self-confidence, thought everyone likes his type. As he spoke, the boy reached out to touch him. Xiao Chun asked, aren't you afraid your boyfriend will get jealous? The boy replied, it's rare to have fun once. Besides, how would he know? Xiao Chun thought that Li Changshu wasn't so bad, just too conservative. It takes forever to teach him anything new. After having enough of the mild, it's time for something spicy today. Xiao Chun returned to the room and sniffed himself. After a shower, there shouldn't be any strange smells on him, right? Acting nonchalant, he got into bed and hugged Changshu to sleep. The next morning, Changshu looked at the sleeping Xiao Chun and thought, no one has ever given me this kind of happiness before. It's like having the whole world, feeling so fulfilled. She lightly tapped his nose, marveling at how high it was. How can someone so handsome be lying next to me? Shu snuggled into Da'i's embrace. If only time could stop at this moment. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Changshu, blushing, quickly turned away. Xiao Chun, annoyed, asked, who is it? Upon opening the door, he saw a man with green hair standing there, fiercely saying, hey, if you've messed with my people, shouldn't you say something? Xiao Chun quickly glanced back into the room and closed the door, afraid that Changshu would hear their conversation. What do you want me to say? Tastes good. The green-haired man angrily retorted, damn, you really don't see yourself as an outsider, huh? Xiao Chun asked, what exactly do you want? I say, since we're fated to meet, why not have some fun together? Xiao Chun had a bad feeling. What do you mean? The green-haired man said, I think your boyfriend is not bad. Just because Xiao Dai messed with the green-haired man's people, the green-haired man wanted to take Cheng Shu as compensation. The man with green hair wanted to take Cheng Shu in exchange. Xiao Chun glared at him displeased. Don't even think about it. After being rejected, the green-haired man angrily grabbed Xiao Chun. Do you FC King think you can take advantage without paying? Xiao Chun said that Li Cheng. Furious, the green-haired man grimaced and said, you just wait. Cheng Shu asked Xiao Chun who was knocking at the door just now. Xiao Chun hurriedly replied, it's nothing. They got the wrong door. Xiao Chun lay on Shu Shu's legs, thinking that no matter how tired and irritated he was, every time he saw Li Cheng Shu, he felt comfortable and relaxed. Xiao Chun told Cheng Shu, after we eat, I'll take you to play billiards this afternoon. Xiao Chun was teaching Cheng Shu how to play pool, when suddenly someone pushed the door open. Oh, how sweet. What, you remember us? Cheng Shu looked at Xiao Chun. Do you know them? Xiao Chun, seeing the green-haired man, said with a dark expression, I don't know him. Xiao Chun turned and walked away, saying he needed to use the bathroom. The pretty boy followed closely, claiming he needed to go as well. Cheng Shu watched Xiao Quan's back, feeling that something was odd about him. At that moment, the green-haired man greeted Cheng Shu. Hey, I live next door to you. Cheng Shu remembered the noise from next door the day before and blushed. The green-haired man looked at Cheng Shu and laughed, so easily embarrassed. She's really cute. Actually, I have something to tell you about your boyfriend. Cheng Shu said he claims he doesn't know you. The man with green hair said he's lying. He was with my people last night. Did you know that? Cheng Shu doesn't believe a word he says. You're talking nonsense. The man with green hair said, then what do you think they are up to now? We are facing the same trouble now, aren't we? Let me take you to him for a good talk. Despite hesitating repeatedly, Cheng Shu followed him. But the more they walked, the more Cheng Shu felt something was off. This isn't the way to the restroom. I'd better go back and wait for him. Suddenly, the man with green hair covered Cheng Shu's mouth and dragged him into a room. Damn. Don't move, that asshole promised to use you to pay off a debt for me one time. Cheng Shu felt that this man was disgusting. I will never trust the words of a bad person. Who can come and save me? Just then, Cheng Shu suddenly heard Xiao Chun loudly calling his name. Cheng Shu responded loudly, and the man with green hair angrily slapped Cheng Shu. Seeing this scene, Xiao Chun angrily hurled a national curse at the green-haired man and grabbed him for a fierce beating. Don't you dare touch my people. Don't let me see you again, or I'll beat you every time I do. If it wasn't for the security, Xiao Chun would have beaten him so badly his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Then he furiously yelled at Cheng Shu, are you stupid? Why would you go with him? Cheng Shu, terrified, trembled as she watched. She had never seen Xiao Chun like this before. He could be so terrifying. It was as if he wanted to devour someone alive, sending chills down one's spine. Cheng Shu, feeling wronged, sat in the corner and cried. Xiao Chun, very angry, said, stop crying, don't act like a crybaby, always knowing only to cry. So easily led away, you wouldn't even know how you might die in a dangerous situation. Xiao Chun looked at Cheng Shu cowering on the ground, trembling from fear. It had been a long time since anything had made him this angry. Seeing that man pressing down on her and touching her, I felt like killing him. Xiao Chun sighed, gently stroked Cheng Shu's face, and asked if it still hurt. 1 second he was raging like a mad goose, and now he was soothing her. He seemed a bit split in spirit. Looking at Cheng Shu's tear-filled, swollen eyes, damn beast. I should have crippled him earlier. Let's go, I'll apply some medicine when we get back. Reaching the room, Cheng Shu quickly apologized. You're almost 30, and still need reminders. Cheng Shu also said with grievance, I didn't expect this either. He said you and his boyfriend. Before Cheng Shu could finish, Xiao Chun confidently said, you doubt me? Why do you doubt me? It's you who went off with another man randomly. Cheng Shu quickly said, I don't doubt you, really. Xiao Chun felt he was too naive, easily swayed by others, which even caused him to lose his composure. After this incident, neither of them was in the mood anymore, and they returned to Shenzhen that night. On the way, Xiao Chun was silent, contemplating his relationship with Cheng Shu. Cheng Shu even dared to question me. What I do and with whom isn't something a pet I keep should care about. It's my fault for not making my stance clear from the start, allowing him to misunderstand. Who told him to be so stubborn and old-fashioned, not wanting money but to play with feelings? Hints don't work on him. What else could this be if not being fed up? I even started to fall into it, actually thinking I was in a relationship. I need to make him understand that our relationship is a mutually agreed transaction. I have to find a way to make him willingly accept it. He then picked up the phone to call Xiao Zhou. Did you take care of the property deed like I asked last time? Since returning from the hot spring hotel, Li Cheng Shu felt that Xiao Quan's attitude towards him had cooled significantly. Occasionally, when Xiao Chun did visit, he would nitpick. Annoyed, Xiao Chun said to Cheng Shu, "Why don't you open the windows? There's a foul smell in the room. Can't you smell it? The heating costs too much electricity when it's cold, so I didn't open the windows to save on electricity bills," Xiao Chun coldly said. Getting a cold and treating it would be even more expensive. Can't even do simple math, and you're studying accounting? Cheng Shu turned his head and said that dinner was ready. I went to serve it when Xiao Chun pulled Cheng Shu over, saying, "I don't want to eat right now." Compared to the gentle gentleman he was at their reunion, Xiao Chun now seemed like a completely different person, arrogant and conceited, quick-tempered, and sometimes even utterly unreasonable. Li Chengshou tolerated all of this, willing to take care of Xiao Chun if it would make the two of them get along better, but recently Xiao Quan's attitude made him feel that Xiao Chun came to him only for that one thing. Our Uncle Li has shown his true feelings to little Chengshou. Last episode mentioned that a few days later at the bidding meeting, Li Shuo was confident and articulate, stealing the show from all the competitors, which made Li Chengshou admire him even more. Li Chengshou thought it was just a meeting that should end before the workday, but unexpectedly, although it ended, he got stuck in a traffic jam on the elevated road with Li Shuo. Although Li Chengshou was anxious, he could only worry. He knew that if he got home late, Xiao Chun would get angry again for not finding him at home. Li Shuo glanced at his watch, smiled, and said, "The traffic jam is terrible now. We won't make it back to the company anytime soon. It's dinner time, and I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. There's a restaurant nearby, just a 10-minute walk. Let's go have dinner." Li Chengshou hesitated as he looked at the endless traffic jam outside but couldn't resist Li Shuo's gracious invitation. He could only join him at a nearby Thai restaurant where Li Shuo poured him a glass of water and introduced with a twinkle in his eye, "The curry crab here is exceptional. Make sure to eat plenty." Li Chengshou smiled and nodded, then Li Shuo took off his glasses and rubbed his brow. "Now that we're off work, you don't have to treat me as your boss, and I don't intend to treat you as my employee. I hope we can become friends. I want to get to know you better. What do you say, little Li?" Li Chengshou wasn't pleased with the boss's attempt to get close, but rather felt uneasy, staring at the lemon water in front of him, not daring to look up. "May I call you Chengshou? Outside of work, you can call me Big Brother Li." Li Shuo's gentle voice, accompanied by the soft music, whispered into Li Chengshou's ear. "Try calling me that." Li Chengshou hesitated for a long time and finally called out in a low voice, "Big Brother Li." Li Shuo smiled with satisfaction. As friends, isn't understanding each other a matter of course? Li Chengshou quickly agreed. Li Shuo crossed his arms, thumbs resting against his chin, unabashedly gazing into Li Chengshou's eyes. "Chengshou, actually, from our first meeting, I could tell the commonalities between us," Li Shuo continued in a slightly husky voice. "To be honest, I ended a relationship a few months ago. I invested 3 years, thinking he would be the one to accompany me for life, but we just weren't compatible. At my age, I want to settle down. I've always been looking for someone who wants to live seriously with me. That's why I invited you today, to understand you better. I hope this isn't too abrupt, but I believe you also dislike beating around the bush, right?" Li Chengshou fidgeted, twirling his fingers under the table. He never dreamed that Li Shuo would mean this. His eyes widened in surprise, and Li Shuo burst into laughter. "Look at you, scared like that." Embarrassed, Li Chengshou came back to his senses. The boss said, "No, I mean, call me Big Brother Li." Li Chengshou opened his mouth several times but still felt too shy to call him that. Li Shuo laughed mysteriously. "I've met too many people in my life. I can tell who's like me. Actually, the first time I took you home, it was purely out of kindness. I never expected you'd come to me on your own. Isn't this fate?" Li Chengshou's face turned red. Just as he was about to speak, the phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the screen. He immediately picked up the phone. "Hello, Xiao Chun. Xiao Dai is very jealous. What should our little Chengshou do?" As mentioned in the last episode, Li Chengshou had just answered the phone. "Where have you been?" Xiao Quan's voice, filled with anger, spilled out from the other end of the phone. The surroundings were already quiet, and Li Shuo was close enough to hear everything clearly, raising his eyebrows. Li Chengshou, embarrassed, nodded apologetically to Li Shuo. He got up and walked to a corner. "Xiao Chun, listen to me," he said, but before he could continue, Xiao Chun cut in. "It's already past 7 o'clock. Do you know I'm still hungry and there's no one at home?" Li Chengshou hurriedly explained, "It's not a party, I went to a tender meeting today. Even if there was traffic, your voice doesn't sound like you're in a car." I was in the middle of talking. Li Chengshou glanced at Li Shuo, remembering that every time he mentioned his boss, Xiao Chun was very disdainful and would immediately frown. He didn't want to upset Xiao Chun over this, so he lightly said, "I was having dinner with colleagues." Xiao Quan's voice immediately became sharp. "What colleagues? men or women? Then, slightly softer but still relentless. You might as well resign early. I'm tired all day and can't even have a meal when I get home. What do I need you for? Li Changsho's heart tightened. Xiao Chun probably felt his tone was too harsh and took a breath. Where are you? I'll come to pick you up. I don't know, let me ask the waiter and tell you the address. No matter what you just ate, wait and have dinner with me. Changsho, our dishes are served. Come and eat while it's hot. I'm so hungry my stomach is growling. A gentle and warm voice suddenly interjected. Li Changsho's spine stiffened. Suddenly there was silence on Xiao Quan's end. I'll be right there. Li Changsho, frightened, quickly stepped back, looking terrified at the smiling Li Shuo. Li Changsho, Xiao Chun. He gritted his teeth and spat out these 3 words, angrily hanging up the phone. Li Changsho stared blankly at the phone, wanting to call back but not daring to. Xiao Chun was angry. Meanwhile, Li Shuo pulled him back to the table. Come eat, it would be a pity if it got cold. Li Changsho was still uneasy, sweat beading on his forehead. Li Shuo walked up to him and softly said, Changshu, you deserve a gentle lover, at the very least someone who knows how to respect you. Li Changsho quickly defended, he just has a bit of a temper, but he's actually quite good to me. Really? Li Shuo chuckled. Why does that sound a bit forced? You were just having a meal with friends, and he yelled at you. How is that respectful? How is that respectful? Upon hearing this, Li Changsho's complexion gradually turned pale. Li Shuo continued, sorry, I shouldn't have judged your affairs. I just think that if a relationship lacks respect and trust, it's bound to be unbalanced. An unbalanced relationship is always in danger of collapsing. Don't you think? Li Shuo's words seemed to awaken someone from a dream. Before this, Li Changsho had never thought about the word respect. Our uncle Li expressed his deep feelings for young Changsho. In the last episode, Li Shuo's words seemed to awaken someone from a dream. Before this, Li Changsho had never considered the word respect. He had always maintained his relationship with Xiao Chun with a grateful heart, carefully maintaining it. Having someone like him and keep him company was enough to make him grateful for a lifetime, let alone someone as outstanding as Xiao Chun. It was destined that there could be no balance between him and Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun had a bad temper, was domineering, and sometimes spoke harshly. All these could be hurtful, but Xiao Chun also had his tender and considerate moments. The place Xiao Chun provided for him to live, allowing him to study again, gave him many beautiful memories. Overall, Xiao Chun was good to him. And thinking about what happened earlier, he was also in the wrong for lying to Xiao Chun. Thinking of this, he felt even more uneasy. He said to Li Shuo, boss, I should head back first. Li Shuo put down his chopsticks, furrowed his brows slightly, and let out a soft sigh. Assistant Joe's cold voice came through the phone. Mr. Li, may I ask if it's French cuisine, Thai cuisine, Hunan or Sichuan cuisine? Li Changsho was taken aback by his question. Please tell me which restaurant you are dining at. President Xiao has had me locate your cell phone, and he will arrive soon. Li Changsho suddenly felt a chill down his spine and said with a tremble, Thai cuisine, thank you. The call was disconnected cleanly, and Li Changsho anxiously looked out the window, put down his chopsticks, and got up hurriedly. Boss, I must go now. Li Shuo wiped his mouth with a napkin. Is your boyfriend coming to pick you up? Li Changsho nodded. That's good news, isn't it? Why are you so nervous? Li Shuo sighed, what a pity. I really like you, but someone has beaten me to it. However, Li Shuo winked at him, you're not married yet. You can change your mind at any time without any legal responsibility, you know. Scared, Li Changsho waved his hands repeatedly, we are fine. Li Shuo raised an eyebrow and smiled. I don't know if I can say this, but Changsho, although taking someone else's love is not what a gentleman is, choosing to abandon the dark and seek the light is a wise man's choice. I'd rather be a villain once and let you be the wise one, but I'm not sure what you think. Just as Li Changsho was about to retort, Li Shuo suddenly raised his hand to stop him and added, I'm a Chinese American. I can give my lover a real marriage, with the same rights as any other couple. Changsho, have you ever considered your future with your young and impulsive boyfriend? Li Changsho was stunned by his question. Marriage, he had never dared to think about it. Li Shuo looked at him earnestly. Although it's too early to talk about this, I really feel we are suitable for each other. Many of your qualities, such as your gentleness, calmness, prudence, and meticulousness, I admire greatly. I sincerely hope to deepen my understanding of you. Don't rush to reject me. Maybe he is not the right person for you, but at least I will be more mature and gentle than him. I will respect you. Aren't you curious about who can spend a lifetime with you? Li Shuo spoke smoothly and convincingly, touching one's heart without being sharp or harsh, leaving Li Changsho speechless. Suddenly, a fierce shout resounded through the entire restaurant, Li Changsho. Xiao Dai was furiously jealous. As mentioned in the previous episode, upon hearing Xiao Quan's explosive shout, Li Chengshou shuddered and turned to see Xiao Chun striding furiously towards them, the wooden floor thumping loudly under his steps. People in the restaurant turned to look. Seeing the tall, handsome, and elegant Li Shuo beside Li Chengshou, Xiao Chun felt like he was going to explode with rage, igniting him completely. A few meters away from them, Li Shuo took the initiative to extend his hand with a polite smile. My surname is Li, and I am Chengshou's boss. May I ask for your esteemed name? Struggling to suppress the urge to throw a punch, Xiao Chun glared at him, then turned to Li Chengshou, grabbed his arm, and angrily said, lying to your colleagues now, when did you learn to lie? Li Shuo withdrew his hand without feeling awkward and stepped forward to explain. Indeed, there were several other colleagues just now, but everyone has left. As the boss, I should stay to pay the bill. Xiao Chun looked at him skeptically, then glared at Li Chengshou. Really? At that moment, Li Chengshou didn't dare to disagree, hastily nodding his head, filled with gratitude towards Li Shuo. Xiao Chun squinted at their table, which looked exactly like a dinner for two. Li Chengshou's hands were shaking nervously, while Li Shuo calmly explained again that they were originally at a big table, but after everyone left, the restaurant moved them to a smaller one. Li Chengshou quickly nodded and weakly called out to Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun was still full of doubts and was unwilling to believe a word from the man who was all smiles but not really smiling. He grabbed Li Chengshou and said coldly, let's go home, and started dragging him out of the restaurant. Li Chengshou apologetically glanced at Li Shuo and hurriedly lowered his head to avoid the suspicious gazes shooting their way. Once outside, Li Chengshou remembered he hadn't even worn his coat and shivered from the cold. Xiao Chun seemed not to notice at all and silently pulled Li Chengshou towards the parking lot. Li Chengshou tried to ease the tense atmosphere. Xiao Chun, let's have dinner together. Suddenly, Xiao Chun stopped, turned around with a gloomy face, grabbed Li Chengshou by the chin, and said harshly, I'll deal with you when we get back. Li Chengshou's face turned pale. Just then, Li Shuo's voice echoed from afar again. Both turned their heads. Li Shuo, draped in a camel cashmere coat, looked dashing even in the cold wind. He was holding Li Chengshou's coat. Chengshou, how could you even forget your clothes? Be careful not to catch a cold, Li Shuo said, not even glancing at the grim-faced Xiao Chun, as he opened the coat to put it on Li Chengshou. Suddenly, Xiao Chun snatched the coat away. He threw it fiercely to the ground, then went up and grabbed Li Shuo by the collar, squinting his eyes and threatening him word by word. Squinting his eyes, he threatened word by word, stay away from my person, Xiao Chun, I only like you. Previously, Xiao Chun threatened Uncle Li to stay away from Xiao Chengshou, but our Uncle Li was unafraid and elegantly smiled, then you better keep a close watch. At this moment, Xiao Quan's tightly clenched fist was ready to strike. Li Chengshou, who was cautiously watching the two, was terrified. Seeing Xiao Chun raise his arm, he quickly rushed over to hug his arm. Xiao Chun, don't, he's your boss. Li Shuo remained calm, simply brushing off Xiao Quan's hand from his collar, smoothing the creases, and smiled at Li Chengshou. Chengshou, goodbye, take care and stay warm. After saying this, he gracefully left without even glancing at Xiao Dai beside him. Watching Li Shuo's departing figure, Xiao Chun forcefully swung, throwing Li Chengshou heavily to the ground. He turned and kicked his own car, causing a large dent in the hood, then pulled Li Chengshou from the ground and drove back home. Not long after, they returned to Xiao Quan's home. As soon as they entered, Xiao Chun pinned Li Chengshou against the wall, gripping his arm and glaring down at him angrily. You've grown wings, huh? Having dinner with another man behind my back. Li Chengshou stammered, Xiao Chun, don't be angry, we're just colleagues. Xiao Chun leaned in, shouting, even a blind man can see what that old lecher is thinking. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, unable to calm his anger. You are mine, I can't stand seeing you with another man. Li Chengshou, shaken by his shouting, looked at Xiao Chun with some guilt. He's just my boss. That lecherous old man actually looks quite decent. Didn't you used to admire him before? Xiao Chun always thought that the nearly 40-year-old accountant Li Chengshou mentioned would be a fat and nerdy bookworm, so she let her guard down. She didn't expect him to be quite stylish when she met him today. As for someone inexperienced like Li Chengshou, it's easy to fool one every time. Li Chengshou continued to explain that Xiao Chun was wrong. He really is just my boss. He gave you a ride home and even took you, an intern, to a tender meeting. It's obvious he's taken a liking to you, and you're quite cooperative, aren't you? You seem to enjoy dinner a lot. Was it more interesting than eating with me? Li Chengshou turned pale. Xiao Chun, you've misunderstood me. Ever since you joined that lousy class, you've been missing dinner at home every other day, sometimes coming home even later than me. And look at how attentive that old lecher was today. You two must have been familiar for more than a day or two. Xiao Chun became angrier as she spoke, while Li Chengshou hurriedly tried to explain. You certainly wouldn't dare to like him, Xiao Chun said, pinching his chin. You can only like me. Li Chengshou's clear eyes looked earnestly into his. I only like you. Xiao Chun was slightly taken aback, feeling a strange sensation in his heart, unfamiliar yet very satisfying with that response. Our little Chengshou is in tears. Has Xiao Chun changed, or has he never seen him clearly from the start? As mentioned in the previous episode, Xiao Chun felt a strange sensation in his heart after hearing Li Chengshou say he only likes him. Li Chengshou nodded earnestly. Xiao Chun felt somewhat elated, so he asked again, how much do you like me? Only then did Li Chengshou realize what he was saying and shyly replied. Xiao Quan's expression softened. If that's the case, you're not allowed to see that old lecture again, and don't go to the tutoring class anymore. I'll enroll you in a new one, Li Chengshou exclaimed. No, immediately Shakun's face darkens again. No, Li Chengshou quickly clings to his arm and pleads, Xiachun, I don't want to resign. I like this job, I don't want to resign. Xiachun brushes his arm away, grabs his chin fiercely, forcing him to lift his face and look at him, saying harshly, you don't want to resign? You still want to flirt with that old lecher? Don't you know to avoid suspicion, or are you just shamelessly hooking up with him? Li Chengshou's body stiffens, his eyes gradually reddening. Either stay at home and wait for me obediently or get lost. Seeing his tearful, womanly appearance, Xiachun feels a wave of irritation, grabs his shoulder, and turns him around, making him face the wall with his back to him. Li Chengshou turns his head in shock, wanting to beg Xiachun not to do this, but Xiachun grabs the back of his head, forcing it around, pushing so hard that his forehead thuds against the wall. Don't let me see your disgusting face again. Li Chengshou is dazed from the impact, not knowing how long it's been before Xiachun finally stops his seemingly endless plunder, throwing the drenched Li Chengshou onto the sofa. The sobbing sounds intermittently. He doesn't understand how Xiachun could treat him this way. Has Xiachun changed, or had he never seen him clearly? He thought that although Xiachun was irritable and overbearing, deep down, he was kind-hearted. Now he feels wronged and helpless. But he doesn't know what to do other than cry, even looking down on himself. Xiachun panics. He hadn't expected his own rough manner would just make Li Chengshou suffer. That way, he would always remember this lesson. He doesn't know how much time has passed before Xiachun finally stops, picking up the drenched Li Chengshou, then throwing him onto the sofa and turning to enter the bedroom. He slammed the bedroom door shut with a bang. Tears continuously flowed from Li Chengshou's vacant eyes. In a semi-conscious state, he lay weakly on the sofa, his limbs powerless. He never expected Xiao Chun to treat him like this. He thought that although Xiao Chun was irritable and domineering, he also had moments of tenderness towards him. Had he changed, or had he never seen clearly from the start? He felt both aggrieved and helpless. At this moment, Xiao Chun lay on the bed, not wanting to move. He stared at the ceiling, waiting for Li Chengshou to open the door and come in. He knew he had been impulsive today, but today was an exception. He felt a bit regretful, perhaps he had indeed gone too far earlier. He wasn't sure if Li Chengshou could handle it. Then he turned his head to look at the bedroom door. In his heart, he was sure he couldn't bring himself to seek out Li Chengshou. If Li Chengshou could come in now and snuggle into his arms like usual, the matter would be over. He would treat him the same as always. He treated him as he should, but as time ticked by, Xiao Chun started to become restless. What's going on? Why hasn't Li Chengshou come in yet? Could he be angry? But what right does he have to be angry? Xiao Chun turned over and sprawled out on the bed, only then realizing how big the bed was. He couldn't reach either edge, something he never noticed when Li Chengshou was with him. He just stared with wide eyes, lying there. Where is Li Chengshou? Why hasn't he come in yet? Could he have gone to sleep in the guest room? The more he thought about it, the more irritated he became. How dare he show his temper with me? He's quite bold. But still, Xiao Chun couldn't help worrying and got out of bed. As soon as he reached the living room, he saw Li Chengshou curled up on the sofa, his frail body shivering and looking so pitiful. Xiao Chun felt a twinge in his heart and quickly approached, calling out softly, Chengshou. As soon as his fingers touched his shoulder, he realized how frighteningly hot his body was. Then he picked up Li Chengshou in his arms. Don't scare me, Chengshou. Our little Chengshou fell ill. Will Xiao Chun have a change of heart, realizing he's treated Li Chengshou poorly? As mentioned in the last episode, Xiao Chun, looking at the unconscious Li Chengshou on the bed, asked the doctor, how is he? The doctor replied softly, it's not serious, just a cold and a fever. After the IV is finished, remove the needle for him. Take these according to the instructions. If the fever hasn't subsided by tomorrow, call me again. If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. Xiao Chun nodded and watched the doctor close the door. Xiao Chun gently sat by the bedside. At this moment, Li Chengshou was covered tightly with a blanket, only his small face exposed. His cheeks were slightly flushed, looking even more fragile than usual, as if his face was marked with, "Handle with care." Xiao Chun stared at him in a daze. The liquid dripped slowly, tick-tock, tick-tock. The unresponsive time made him feel restless. Normally, Li Chengshou would softly call him to get up, align his slippers, and prepare his toothpaste. But now, lying in bed, he seemed so fragile, almost becoming transparent. At this moment, Xiao Chun felt an inexplicable pang in his heart. So this is what a morning without Li Chengshou is like. It really felt abrupt, as if something was missing. Then he took off his shoes, slowly turned over onto the bed, gently lifted the blanket, and held Li Chengshou's burning body in his arms. At this moment, he felt something he had never felt before. Then Xiao Chun raised his eyes and saw Li Chengshou's dry lips. He quickly got up from the bed, went to the living room, and poured a glass of water. He then jogged back to the bedroom with the water, gently propped Li Chengshou up. He himself didn't expect that he, Xiao Chun, would actually take care of someone. The unequal relationship between the two made Xiao Dai constantly hurt our little Chengshou. In the last episode, it was mentioned that Li Chengshou remained unconscious until that evening. He gently opened his heavy eyelids and found a faint light in front of him. Xiao Chun was sitting beside him, gently tapping on the laptop keyboard. As soon as he saw him wake up, he immediately put down the computer and happily said, "Chengshou, you're awake." Li Chengshou looked at him blankly without speaking. Xiao Chun continued to show concern. "Are you thirsty? Hungry? You've had a fever and slept all day." Li Chengshou barely squeezed out the word, "thirsty," from his throat. Xiao Chun quickly jumped out of bed. "Wait here." He then jogged to the living room, poured a glass of water for him, helped him sit up, leaned him against the bed, and gently fed him the water. After Li Chengshou gulped it down, Xiao Chun asked, "Are you hungry?" Li Chengshou nodded drowsily. "Then wait for me a bit." Xiao Chun quickly got up from the bed and jogged to the kitchen. He carefully brought out a bowl of porridge that had been kept warm in the rice cooker and placed it in front of Li Chengshou. "It's hot, made by the hotel today. Eat some, open your mouth." Li Chengshou drowsily opened his mouth and swallowed the porridge Xiao Chun fed him, one bite at a time. He hadn't had any food or water all day, and he quickly finished the bowl. Xiao Chun asked if he wanted more, but he shook his head. "How are you feeling? Still uncomfortable?" Xiao Chun put down the bowl and pressed his forehead against Li Chengshou's. After a long while, Li Chengshou looked at Xiao Chun, closed his eyes wearily, and shook his head. A few hours later, Li Chengshou finally broke his fever and gradually became clear-headed. He glanced out the window and managed to croak out a few words from his dry throat. "What day is it today?" Xiao Chun casually replied, "Thursday." Li Chengshou immediately frowned and rasped, "Where's my phone? I need to call in sick." Xiao Quan's face immediately darkened, showing displeasure. "I've been staying home with you, didn't even go to the company, and the first thing you do when you wake up is worry about that lousy job of yours." Li Chengshou's face gradually showed some anxiety. "I need to call in sick." Xiao Chun turned his head to the side indifferently and said, "You don't need to call in sick. I've already resigned for you. Also, you don't need to go to the tutoring class anymore. Take a few days off at home. I'll find you a better one." Li Chengshou was completely stunned, feeling so heavy-hearted that he could hardly breathe. He lowered his head and spoke with difficulty, "Xiao Chun, have you ever thought about respecting me?" Our little Chengshou suddenly realized that there seemed to be an insurmountable gap between him and Xiao Dai. In the last episode, Li Chengshou's words left Xiao Chun momentarily stunned. Then he turned his head to look at Li Chengshou and chuckled, "Are you confused from the fever? What I did yesterday was a bit too much, but you provoked me first. If you could behave, would I have gotten so angry? Now that you've quit, it's just as well. Do you still want to argue with me over that old pervert? What's so hard to let go of about this job? I can find you a better one." Besides, he remembered that when Li Chengshou was unconscious, the phone beside him kept vibrating. He picked it up and saw more than 10 missed calls, all from Mr. Li. This old guy still dared to covet his things. In anger, he threw the phone to the ground, smashing it to pieces. Phones should have a new feature that allows Li Chengshou to only make emergency calls and calls to me. Then Xiao Chun took something out of the bedside table and tossed it in front of Li Chengshou. "I bought you a new phone." Tossing a new phone in front of Li Chengshou. "It's time for you to change yours. The old one could be in a museum by now." Li Chengshou, without even glancing at the phone, trembling slightly, finally mustered up the courage to confront Xiao Chun, saying, "I like that job, Xiao Chun, you're being too much." This was the first time since they'd been together that Li Chengshou had made such a serious accusation, hoping to gain Xiao Quan's respect. But Xiao Quan's face darkened immediately, his voice cold. "You like that job? Li Chengshou, I think you're sick right now. I don't want to argue with you. Think about it carefully, what's more important? A dispensable job, or me? For Li Chengshou, naturally, Shao Chun is more important. But is this really a multiple-choice question where one has to choose between the two? Doesn't Shao Chun have any trust in him at all? Seeing Li Chengshou's weak and staggering figure, Shao Chun quickly supported him with his hand and softened his tone. All right, look at you, you're still sick. It's most important to recover well now. We can talk about those things after you get better, okay? Then he gently laid Li Chengshou down on the bed to lie flat. I promise to find you a better tutoring class and get you an internship at a top-tier company. You'll learn more useful things, okay? Li Chengshou didn't speak, just looked at Shao Chun with eyes slightly filled with sadness. Shao Chun, like cajoling a kitten or puppy, said, "Be good, if you listen to me, I'll take even better care of you." It was at this moment that Li Chengshou suddenly realized that expecting even a hint of an apology from Shao Chun, whether for hurting him or ending his job without consent, was utterly impossible. After Li Chengshou recovered, he became increasingly silent. Between him and Shao Chun, there seemed to be an insurmountable chasm that no effort could bridge. Suddenly, Sister Xiao Dai came to visit. Our little Chengshou was kicked out of the house. As mentioned in the last episode, Xiao Quan's promises were always put off. Li Chengshou stayed in the family house for over a month, but he wasn't idle, planning to take the accounting certification exam and find a job to slowly pay off his debt to Shao Chun. He believed that if he didn't owe Shao Chun anything, maybe Shao Chun would respect him more. Now, living under someone else's roof and in debt, he naturally had to bow down to them. Today, as usual, Li Chengshou was in the kitchen making soup for Shao Chun while wearing an apron when suddenly the doorbell rang. After Li Chengshou opened the door, he was stunned. Standing at the door was a delicately beautiful, tall woman. The woman glanced at Li Chengshou, slightly raised her eyebrows, and said, "Is Shao Chun living here?" Her tone was quite arrogant. Li Chengshou nodded dumbly. Then, under Li Chengshou's bewildered gaze, the woman walked past him, confidently entered the room, and naturally sat down on the sofa. "Get me a glass of water," she said. Li Chengshou stared at her, then quickly nodded. She didn't even glance at Li Chengshou, just took out her phone and dialed Shao Chun. "Hello, Shao Chun, I'm at your place." Suddenly, she smelled the scent of mutton soup. At that moment, Li Chengshou also brought a glass of water to her. She nodded at Li Chengshou, then abruptly hung up the phone. "Sit down." Li Chengshou sat down blankly. He had never seen such a formidable woman before. The woman looked Li Chengshou up and down and asked, "Are you making mutton soup?" To ward off the cold." She nodded, "Add more ginger. The smell of the mutton needs to be cleared. Shao Chun doesn't like it too fatty." Li Chengshou felt incredibly awkward. "May I ask if you are his woman?" He put down the water glass, and Sister Li Chengshou was shocked. For a moment, he became incoherent, and she just looked at Li Chengshou expressionlessly. "Shao Chun will be back soon. When will the soup be ready?" Soon. Not long after, Shao Chun hurried over. Seeing Xiao Wen sitting on the sofa, he exclaimed, "Big sister, why are you here?" Xiao Wen stood up from the sofa, crossed her arms, and looked at him with a scrutinizing gaze. She coldly said, "If I didn't come, when were you planning to come home? Didn't I say I would go back for the new year?" Shao Chun, slightly annoyed, ruffled his hair and walked over, pulling Li Chengshou up from the sofa without even glancing at him. "Go out to eat today." Li Chengshou gave a slight nod, pursed his lips, and said softly, "I made soup for you." Before he could finish, Shao Chun interrupted him impatiently, "Hurry and go." Li Chengshou sadly lowered his eyes, then went to the kitchen, took off his apron, put on his coat and shoes, and rushed out the door as if fleeing. After our little Chengshou was chased out by the big goose Xiao, his slender figure was pitiful. Last episode, we mentioned that Shao Chun sat down next to Xiao Wen, starting to make small talk. But Xiao Wen spoke up, "Besides coming to see you this time, the main thing is to talk about your personal issues. Hurry up and get married." Hearing this, Shao Chun frowned, feeling some resistance. "Isn't it too early? I'll only be 27 next year." "What's early? Tell your sister what type you like." Shao Chun leaned back on the sofa, legs on the coffee table, nonchalantly saying, "Someone brainless, less powerful." Xiao Wen glared at him angrily. "If that's the case, I do have someone in mind." "Forget it, you mean the one the family has already chosen for me?" Xiao Wen continued, unfazed. "Remember the granddaughter from the Lao Qi family? You met her a few years ago, and now you see her every day." Shao Chun questioned lightly and turned his head. "The one in the Hong Kong entertainment industry? Not bad, pretty. Do you like her?" Shao Chun shook his head self-deprecatingly. "Whether I like her doesn't matter, as long as you are satisfied. Arrange it as you please." Xiao Wen pointed at him seriously. "You should also start getting serious. Dad hopes that after you get married, you can be more proper." Xiao Chun frowned. How am I not proper? What about that one just now? Xiao Chun was taken aback, then said nonchalantly, what about it? That's just how it is. Xiao Wen glared at him. I don't care what your relationship with him is. Before you get married, clean up your messy relationships. Xiao Chun impatiently replied, oh, I know, sis. Stop nagging. Let's go out for dinner. But Xiao Wen suddenly remembered something. Just now, he said he was making soup. Go turn off the stove. Xiao Chun responded, just leave the soup there. Let's go out for some really good Japanese food. At this moment, Li Chengshou, who was hurriedly sent out, was penniless and didn't have his keys or phone. He could only stay at a nearby supermarket until it closed at 10 p.m., and then he came out reluctantly. He reluctantly came out. Xiao Quan's indifferent attitude made him seem like a nanny in front of his sister. Although he understood that their relationship couldn't be casually revealed, especially to family, he still felt upset. Even if Xiao Chun just said, this is my friend, Li Chengshou found that one of Xiao Quan's cars was missing when he returned, indicating that Xiao Chun was likely not home. Li Chengshou looked confusedly at the villa in front of him. Xiao Chun could let him stay or ask him to leave at any time, just like today. It seems better to move out. Staying at someone else's place isn't a long-term solution. I need to find a job to pay back Xiao Quan's money. If neither of us owes the other and we're on equal footing, maybe I won't feel so humble. At this moment, Xiao Chun drove back and saw Li Chengshou squatting at the door. After getting out of the car, he angrily said, are you sick? What are you doing sitting here? Xiao Dae was secretly preparing to get married behind Li Chengshou's back. In the last episode, Xiao Chun got out of the car in a rage and saw Li Chengshou shivering at the door. He shouted, are you sick? Why are you standing here? Why didn't you go inside? Li Chengshou shivered and said he forgot to bring the key. Xiao Chun saw his trembling body. He walked up and touched his face. How long have you been standing here? Couldn't you find a place to rest? You forgot to bring money and didn't bring your phone either. Li Chengshou stiffly shook his head. Xiao Chun scolded, are you stupid? Then he took out the key and told Li Chengshou to quickly go inside while he parked the car. But Li Chengshou's hands were so stiff from the cold that he couldn't catch the key, and it fell to the ground. Xiao Chun angrily picked up the key. I shook his hand and found it as cold as ice, so I quickly grabbed my coat from the car, and wrapped Li Chengshou up in it. I picked him up and walked towards the house, saying, take a hot bath when we get back, don't freeze yourself. Then, Xiao Chun carried her into the bathroom. The moment the warm water enveloped her, Li Chengshou felt her pores gradually defrost and her limbs regain sensation. Xiao Chun hugged her from behind, holding her slowly warming hands. You didn't bring anything with you. Why didn't you come back? Your sister is here. Unable to resist, Xiao Chun pressed closer, biting Li Chengshou's fair cheek. Silly, look how you've frozen yourself. Li Chengshou, distracted, stared at the water and asked, does your sister know about us? But it's okay, don't worry. A pang of sadness hit Li Chengshou, and he barely held back the words he wanted to blurt out. If she knows, then why did she drive him out? As for Xiao Quan's marriage, he had no intention of letting Li Chengshou know. After all, whether he married or not had nothing to do with Li Chengshou. Things between them would remain the same. If Li Chengshou were a woman, perhaps he would marry her. Such a virtuous, gentle, obedient, and considerate wife is truly one in a million. But Li Chengshou wasn't, and yet Xiao Chun decided to treat him well. After all, Li Chengshou was unlike anyone he had been with before, and he had personally trained him bit by bit. This, to some extent, made Xiao Chun regard Li Chengshou as his private possession, and he was quite fond of him. No matter how long they would be together in the future, he wouldn't mistreat him. As for Li Chengshou, everything was up to Xiao Chun anyway. Although Xiao Chun planned to keep his marriage a secret from Li Chengshou indefinitely, but Li Chengshou found out. As mentioned in the last episode, the thing that comforted Li Chengshou was that Xiao Chun became much more enthusiastic towards him than before. The frequency of coming home for dinner increased significantly, and he often brought him various valuable gifts. Li Chengshou didn't want to accept Xiao Quan's intentions, so he kept them in this house. When he moves out one day, he won't take any of it with him. Li Chengshou has never wanted to earn more money as much as he does now. He hopes to give Xiao Chun nice things, hoping that Xiao Chun will think highly of him. But reality is always so cruel. That day, Li Chengshou tidied up the house as usual and sat on the sofa to rest. He flipped through the newspaper of the day, and when he got to the entertainment section, the photo on the front page made his body freeze instantly. A well-connected supermodel, Chi Ming, was photographed dating a stranger in Kowloon. Rumors have it that the man comes from a wealthy family with generations of connections. The two are already engaged, with the wedding soon to come. The photo was very clear, not looking like it was taken secretly. Li Chengshou didn't believe it, and then trembled as he checked the date on the newspaper. It said the night of the 13th. That night, Xiao Chun didn't come home, saying he went to Guangzhou for business and was too tired to come back, but he was clearly in Hong Kong. Li Changsho's heart ached sharply, his hands trembling so much he could hardly hold the newspaper steady. Xiao Chun was getting married, the issue he had always avoided and didn't dare to think about. He finally had to face it. Li Changsho felt darkness coming over him, even breathing became so difficult. He picked up the phone and immediately called Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun had never mentioned anything about his family to him, he didn't even know he had a sister until that day. Thinking about it carefully, how could a rich person like Xiao Chun not get married? Then what was he? Even if Xiao Chun was to get married, shouldn't he be the first to know? Even if it meant breaking up. But to his disappointment, the phone went unanswered. He desperately wanted to hear Xiao Quan's voice. If only Xiao Chun could tell him that all this was false, that would be so good. Not long after, Xiao Chun came back for lunch. As soon as he entered, he saw Li Changsho jump up from the sofa, his eyes flickering and his face full of sadness looking at him. Xiao Chun felt something was wrong and frowned. What's the matter? Li Changsho replied hoarsely, you're getting married. Shusho questioned Xiao Dai, if you get married, please tell me. In the last episode, we saw Li Changsho looking very sad. Xiao Chun widened his eyes, startled. He didn't know why, but seeing Li Changsho sad made him feel uncomfortable too. He then snatched the magazine from Li Changsho's hands and closed it. Don't listen to these nonsensical newspapers. I know him, but we're just friends. Li Changsho's eyes were somewhat vacant as he continued to question. On the 13th, you said you were in Guangzhou, but you were in Hong Kong. Hearing this, Xiao Quan's face immediately darkened. He crumpled the magazine in his hand into a ball and threw it into the trash bag, then casually lied, I was indeed in Guangzhou at first, but that day was a friend's birthday and they insisted I go. What's the big deal? These newspapers love to write celebrity gossip to boost sales. Why do you believe everything? Li Changsho saw that he spoke so confidently and felt a bit doubtful, thinking for a moment before continuing, but you. After thinking it over, he continued, but you know, when she just finished speaking, Xiao Chun became furious and yelled at Li Changsho, Li Changsho, are you fucking done? Can't you see we're crossing the road? Protecting the lady by your side is basic courtesy, let alone we are friends. Are you looking for trouble? Li Changsho was startled by Xiao Quan's actions and shrank back. His face turned pale as he recalled the photo in the newspaper. No matter how he looked at it, the gesture seemed too intimate to be just friends. Xiao Chun, feeling guilty, became even more irritable. Since when did he need to explain these things to others? If it weren't for fearing that Li Changsho's whining would annoy him, he wouldn't bother at all. I sleep with whoever I want, it's none of your business. Li Changsho slowly sat down on the sofa. That incident last time at the Hot Spring Hotel had just begun, and Xiao Chun had lost his temper just like now. Was it really a misunderstanding, or was there something to it? Xiao Chun sighed inwardly, forcibly suppressing the irritation in his chest, and sat down beside him, wrapping his arm around Changsho's shoulder. From now on, don't look at this mess. We are having such good days now, and I wanted to continue like this. Li Changsho turned to look at him, his bright eyes clear as a spring, making Xiao Chun feel uneasy under such a gaze. After a long while, Li Changsho softly said, Xiao Chun, if you get married, tell me. Xiao Quan's expression turned cold instantly. Are you ever going to drop it? Li Changsho's eyes reddened. I mean, if you get married, please be sure to tell me. I'll leave on my own. My mother was destroyed by an extramarital affair. Xiao Junyang, Xiao Chun, could no longer bear to see that look as if peering into the depths of his soul. He turned and left. Xiao Chun did not tell Li Changsho the truth. What will our little Changsho do? In the last episode, Li Changsho saw the back of Chun leaving. He reached into the trash can and retrieved the crumpled magazine, slowly spreading his fingers, gently touching Xiao Quan's smiling lips, feeling as if his heart was being cut by a knife. He didn't know when Xiao Chun had become more and more important to him. He couldn't imagine what he would do if one day Xiao Chun didn't want him anymore. On the other side, Xiao Chun, with a gloomy face, took out his phone. Xiao Zhou, check who leaked the photos of Qi Ming and me. He felt an unknown force pressing hard on his chest, unable to vent his frustration. He angrily pounded the car a few times. Then Xiao Chun took a flight to Shanghai. After receiving the call, Xiao Sheng personally went to the airport to pick him up. They skipped dinner and went straight to a bar. Xiao Sheng had reserved a private room early in the morning. As soon as the door opened, Xiao Chun saw a row of various drinks on the table. Xiao Sheng smiled and led him in, celebrating your engagement. Xiao Chun sneered, slumping onto the sofa. What's there to celebrate? Xiao Sheng raised an eyebrow. Then why did you come to me? Can't I come to you for no reason? Aren't you close to Shenzhen? Xiao Sheng also sat on the sofa. How is it? Xiao Chun leaned on the sofa, half closing his eyes. How is what? The bride, Xiao Chun replied, she's all right, knows how to handle things. Then why the gloomy face? Xiao Chun then asked for a drink. Did you see that photo in the newspaper? My sister had someone publish it without telling me. He took the glass and continued, I already promised her I would get married, yet she seems afraid I would back out, making sure everyone knows about it. The more she pushes me, the less I want to comply. She shouldn't have exploded like that. It caught Li Chengshou's attention. As soon as I got home, he started nagging me, it was so annoying. Xiao Sheng dragged out his tone, it took you so long to get annoyed by this, huh? No wonder you ran to Shanghai in the middle of the night, turns out you were kicked out. I don't like seeing him all whiny, I couldn't bother going back. Xiao Sheng blinked, if he annoys you, just tell him to get lost. Since he's depending on you, why let him boss you around? Instead of sorting him out, you come here to drink in silence. Xiao Chun, you're being too cowardly. Xiao Sheng's words struck a nerve. Xiao Chun took a couple of drinks, his blood boiled, and in anger, he threw his glass away. I don't like to quarrel with him. He acts like a woman. Xiao Sheng nudged him. Aren't you guys planning to marry by next spring? What are you going to do about Li Chengshou? Xiao Dai came looking for our little Chengshou. Last episode mentioned, Xiao Sheng holding his drink, asked Xiao Chun, what about Li Chengshou? You'll have to return to Beijing once you're married, right? How does he plan to take him back? Xiao Chun, holding his forehead, hadn't figured out how to deal with Li Chengshou. Xiao Sheng looked at him, continued, if I were you, I'd clean this mess up now. Once you're a married man, even if he has something on you, a biting dog doesn't bark. I advise you to be careful. Xiao Chun snorted, I never planned on letting him know, but this mess my sister made puts me in a tough spot. What can telling him do? Can you turn against him? Xiao Chun thought of Li Chengshou's reddened eyes and said nothing. He couldn't tell others his lover wasn't well trained and was getting too bold. That would be too embarrassing. And seeing Xiao Chun so distressed, Xiao Sheng said seriously, Xiao Chun, if you really let your pet control you, then I don't know you anymore. You know this is the biggest taboo in our circle. Stop talking nonsense. Xiao Chun felt suffocated, so what's going on now? I advise you to break it off with him, why the hesitation? Xiao Chun rubbed his hair impatiently. He behaves quite well, serving people with a complete set of skills. It's comfortable to be with him. Anyway, I still have to stay in Shenzhen for a while. I'll talk about it when I return to Beijing. Xiao Sheng glanced at him meaningfully. Xiao Chun, don't blame me for not reminding you, there are priorities in everything. You need to think it through. Who do you think I am? And once Xiao Chun left, it was several days before he answered calls or replied to messages. Li Chengshou was worried all the time, hardly sleeping well. He finished his exams in a daze, and immediately started looking for a job non-stop. He deeply felt that if he kept focusing all his thoughts on Xiao Chun, things would become increasingly abnormal. After running around all day, Li Chengshou came home, took a bath, and was so tired that he slumped on the bed and couldn't get up for a long time. He picked up his mobile phone, hoping to find missed calls or messages from Xiao Chun, but disappointingly, there was nothing. He thought maybe he had really misunderstood Xiao Chun. So much so that he didn't even bother to explain. Li Chengshou hesitated as he looked at the screen, but finally couldn't resist sending a text message. After sending it, he tightly held the phone, hoping he would think about it. But the phone didn't ring, the doorbell did. It startled Li Chengshou so much that he jumped up from the bed. He remembered Xiao Chun left without the keys, so he opened the door with anticipation, and it really was Xiao Chun. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Xiao Chun is back. Will the gift improve their relationship? Seeing Xiao Chun, Li Chengshou felt his nose tingle with emotion. You're back. Xiao Chun was taken aback and felt an urge to hug him tightly. Is it really so exciting to be expected to come home? I never had this feeling before. Li Chengshou timidly asked, where have you been? It's been several days. But Xiao Chun suddenly put a large bundle of things in front of him, almost touching his nose. Xiao Chun awkwardly said, this is for you. Li Chengshou was stunned for a moment. Looking closely, it was a large bouquet of flowers. In the center of the bouquet was a small chocolate-colored puppy, tied gently with a golden ribbon in a velvet box, looking at him with beady eyes. Li Chengshou's tense heartstrings relaxed at this moment. Seeing his change in expression, Xiao Chun also unconsciously relaxed. Take it out. Li Chengshou carefully untied the ribbon, holding the puppy in his palm. Why is it so small? Xiao Chun casually put the flowers down on the table. Poodles are this small. Even when grown, they won't be bigger than my hand. Li Chengshou held it lovingly, afraid of hurting it with the slightest mishandling. Taking the opportunity, Xiao Chun hugged his waist from behind, nuzzling his neck with his forehead. I was afraid you'd be bored alone at home. Will you let it keep you company? Just a few days ago, they had parted on bad terms, and now they were suddenly so close again. Li Chengshou found it hard to adjust, so he stiffly nodded, thank you. Xiao Chun greedily absorbed the warm, fresh scent from his skin. Indeed, it's good to be home. Seeing that Xiao Chun didn't bring up that day's incident, Li Qingshuo thought, maybe we can be like we used to be. The two sat on the sofa together, playing with the puppy. What's its name? Li Qingshuo asked, stroking its fluffy belly and talking to himself. After thinking for a bit, Xiao Chun suggested, let's call it Teacup. Ah, that's an awful name. Haven't you heard that casually named pets are easier to raise? Li Qingshuo laughed and called out twice, Teacup, Teacup. Xiao Chun, watching Li Qingshuo, was mesmerized. Li Qingshuo really was quite attractive. Then Xiao Chun took the little teacup from his hands, gazing at him. Don't just look at the dog. We haven't seen each other for several days. Why don't you look at me? Li Qingshuo blushed slightly. What's there to look at? But Xiao Chun slowly leaned in and whispered seductively in his ear, did you miss me? Embarrassed, Li Qingshuo nodded. I missed you too, Xiao Chun said gently, kissing his cheek. You seem to have lost weight, Xiao Chun observed. Li Qingshuo subconsciously touched his face. I haven't, have I? But Xiao Chun licked his lips. I need to check that. Li Qingshuo unconsciously said, it's cold, as Xiao Chun slowly unfolded his body. Be good, it will get warm in a moment. After vigorous activity, Li Qingshuo, with a sore waist, took care of little Teacup. Taking advantage of Xiao Quan's good mood, he also told him about starting to look for a job. Hearing that he was going to work again, Xiao Chun frowned, but remembering their recent intimacy, he nonchalantly said, I know. Li Qingshuo cautiously asked, do you agree? Seeing his careful demeanor, Xiao Chun felt it would be too harsh to disagree, so he nodded perfunctorily, if you can't sit still at home and want to work, then go. Li Qingshuo's heart, which had been hanging, finally settled. That's great, Xiao Chun, thank you. 2 weeks later, Xiao Quan's elder sister Wen came to Xiao Quan's house. Xiao Chun spoke in a not-so-friendly tone. I need to talk to you about the photo from last time. Xiao Wen's voice did not show any sign of disturbance. What about it? Why did you post our photo? Wasn't it good when Xiao Wen sighed? Dad saw it and said you two looked quite compatible together. Xiao Wen angrily said, stop meddling in our affairs. I promised you I wouldn't go back on my word. Don't push me too far or I won't marry anyone at all. Xiao Wen was stunned, then sneered, Xiao Wen, you're getting mad at me. It wouldn't be because of that boy toy you're keeping, would it? Xiao Wen replied impatiently, he's not a toy. Everything was fine. Just stop causing me trouble, okay? Xiao Wen stood up, I'm causing you trouble? You're about to get married. Do you think keeping a man older than you at home is something to be proud of? All these years, I've been too lazy to bother with your messy affairs, because I thought you knew what's important. Kaiming is different from your other friends. She is going to be your wife in public. If you two don't get along, or if your hobbies get out, you'll shame the Xiaowen family. You know what? Kaiming is smarter than you. We've already signed an agreement, it looks good on the surface and we don't interfere with each other. If you don't meddle, there won't be any problems. Seeing Xiaowen getting angry, Xiaowen then restrained herself a bit. I admit I handled this poorly, but how can you blame your sister over a dispensable partner? You've never done this before. Xiaowen had no choice but to push his sister towards the door. I don't want to talk about this anymore. As long as you don't interfere, everything will go as you wish. As they were opening the door, they saw Li Qingshuo standing outside. Xiaowen glanced at him without speaking, then she walked out the door. As mentioned in the previous episode, when Xiaowen saw Li Qingshuo, he asked, what are you doing up here? Li Qingshuo smiled at him, I made chicken soup. Xiaowen nodded, put it on the table, I'll have it in a bit. Then Li Qingshuo carefully placed the bowl on the table and Xiaowen sat on the sofa, patting his thigh, come here. Li Qingshuo obediently sat on his lap and Xiaowen couldn't help but tidy his somewhat messy hair. How's the job hunt going? Xiaowen actually took the initiative to ask about his job search, which surprised Li Qingshuo. He happily replied, I have 2 promising interviews tomorrow. Xiao Chun nodded. Once you pass your accounting exam, I'll find you a decent job. Then you won't have to stay in the kitchen anymore, okay? Li Qingshuo's eyes lit up. Okay, thank you. Xiao Chun gave a tired smile and tightened his arm. Tighten your arms, press your nose against the crook of his shoulder, inhaling the fresh scent of his body after a shower. Seeing his cordial demeanor today, Li Qingshuo feels the timing is right and can't help but say, Xiao Chun, after finding a job, I'm thinking of moving out. Xiao Chun suddenly lifts his head, squinting his eyes, his voice drops by 8 degrees, what did you say? Li Qingshuo's spine chills, realizing he has said something he shouldn't have. Now in a difficult position, he stammers, I can't always live in your house. Xiao Chun frowns, what's the difference between my house and your house? You're my person. If you don't live with me, where do you plan to live? Go back to that doghouse of yours? Do you have a masochistic tendency, or what? I don't even want to go there to find you. Li Qingshuo is rendered speechless. Even with 1,000 reasons, he falls silent before Xiao Quan's displeasure. Now, it's less about caring too much for Xiao Chun and more about being somewhat afraid of him. He can only take a light breath and whisper, "I was just talking casually." Xiao Chun rolls his eyes. "I really don't have the energy to bicker with you today. Let's sleep. Don't bring up such discordant matters in the future." The next day, bright and early, Li Chengshou prepares and heads for the interview. He sits quietly in the chair waiting, and after about 10 minutes, the office door clicks open. Li Chengshou quickly stands up and turns to look at the person coming in. He is stunned to see that it's Manager Zhang from the hotel where he used to work. Manager Zhang seems not surprised at all to see him here. Manager Zhang takes a seat self-assuredly and says, "Have a seat, Xiao Li." Li Chengshou looks at him blankly, unsure whether to stay or go, but finally sits down as Manager Zhang stresses his words. "Long time no see, Xiao Li. I was quite surprised to see your resume. What a coincidence." Li Chengshou starts to speak, but before he finishes, Manager Zhang interrupts him. "Why did I come here, right? Yeah, this hotel can't compare to the previous one, nor is the treatment as good. Why do you think I'm here? It's all thanks to your Mr. Xiao." Li Chengshou stands up uncomfortably. "I should go." "Don't go, sit down. I have something to tell you." "Don't worry, I'm not blaming you. Let's talk about something you might be interested in. For instance, what has Xiao Chun done to make you his, and what has he done to make you obediently stay at home waiting for him?" As soon as the words fall, Li Chengshou's face turns pale. "What are you saying? When our Xiao Chengshou learned the truth, how would he face Xiao Chun?" In the last episode, Manager Zhang asked, "Are you still with Xiao Chun?" Li Chengshou nodded, not understanding. Seeing this, Manager Zhang sighed and said, "Xiao Li, actually, I'm quite satisfied with you. But seeing an honest person like you being deceived by Xiao Chun, I feel bad too. I'll tell you what kind of person Xiao Chun is, but you have to promise not to let him know it was me who told you." Li Chengshou stiffly nodded. Manager Zhang continued, "Xiao Chun has done many despicable things. Do you remember when he discussed with President Chen to borrow you for 2 weeks to work for him? President Chen didn't understand at the time. Why 2 weeks for just a day's work? Do you know what Xiao Chun said? He directly said he took a liking to you and needed time to get you in his hands. President Chen didn't believe it and said 2 weeks wouldn't be enough. Xiao Chun said, 'We'll see.' He said he liked that 600-year-old specimen in President Chen's office. If he really managed to get you, President Chen would give it to him. You know what happened in the end." After hearing this, all the color drained from Li Chengshou's face. He couldn't believe it was true, but the specimen in Xiao Quan's study was indeed President Chen's. Manager Zhang looked at him sympathetically and continued, "This is just one thing. And the time I helped you move, did you really think he cared about you and found you a good place to live? Actually, he thought your place was bad and didn't want to go there to see you. There was also a time when Xiao Chun got into a fight at a hotel, and he privately asked me to find a way to force you to resign. Otherwise, why would I bother to give you trouble for no reason? As a result, President Chen fired me to compensate him." Finally, Li Chengshou got agitated and trembled, saying, "I don't believe you." "You?" Trembling, I said, "I don't believe you. If you're working, you can't be home every day waiting for him. He's treating you like a mistress, don't you understand?" Li Chengshou suddenly stood up from the chair, the heavy solid wood chair making a loud noise due to his movement. His expression froze. "If what Manager Zhang said is true, what should I do?" Manager Zhang shook his head with a sigh, trying to console me. "I'm telling you all this just to give you a heads up. Take precautions now before he dumps you, and make a backup plan. You don't owe him anything. Xiao Chun is really no good." Li Chengshou raised his head, his eyes red-rimmed, stood up leaning on the chair, and nodded at Manager Zhang. "I'm leaving." He looked like a soulless man. He had always liked Xiao Chun and thought their affection was mutual, but Xiao Chun only saw him as a lover who could be bought with money. How could there be such a deplorable thing in this world? Li Chengshou leaned helplessly against the wall, not knowing whether or not to go back and confront Xiao Chun. But what then, after asking? No matter what the answer, it would certainly not be the scene he wanted to see. What should he do? Li Chengshou wandered around outside for a day, only returning unwillingly as the sun was about to set. As soon as there was a noise, Xiao Chun immediately turned his head, his brows slightly furrowed. "You had an interview until this late? I was just about to call you." Li Chengshou nodded tiredly, not even having the courage to look up at him. Seeing him in such a dispirited state, Xiao Chun walked over and blocked his path, gently lifting his chin. "What's wrong? Why so listless? Didn't it go well?" Li Chengshou turned his head away and responded softly. Xiao Chun couldn't stand his indifferent attitude, grabbed his chin, and forced him to face himself. "Showing me attitude just because you didn't find a job? Pretty bold of you." Li Chengshou's nostrils flared. Suddenly, with a rush of excitement, he opened his hand with a slap, shocking both of them. Xiao Chun was stunned for half a second, his eyes gradually widening in disbelief as he looked at him. Li Chengshou actually dared to resist him, something he had never dared to do before. Li Chengshou looked at Xiao Chun, bewildered, with a hint of panic in his eyes. Xiao Chun yanked him fiercely. Pushing him against the wall, he gritted his teeth and demanded, "What on earth is going on?" Li Chengshou's eyes were slightly red. Li Chengshou's eyes were slightly red as he carefully observed Xiao Chun, trying to find the answer he wanted. What was Xiao Chun really thinking? How sincere was he towards him? Could he trust him? Xiao Chun noticed his swollen eyes and couldn't help but touch his upper eyelid. "Have you been crying?" The anger that was just beginning to flare up suddenly disappeared under Li Chengshou's obviously aggrieved expression. A sense of pity grew in Xiao Quan's heart, and he let go of his hand that was holding him tightly. He then gently touched his face and softly said, "What has upset you so much?" Li Chengshou gently shook his head. Xiao Chun quickly hugged him and cooed, all right, don't be angry. Isn't this a common occurrence? You're an adult, be strong." Li Chengshou lowered his eyelids and remained silent in his arms. Xiao Chun felt that this somewhat petty and sulky Li Chengshou was actually quite cute. Occasionally behaving like this could also be considered a kind of charm. Then, holding him, he said, "Let's go eat. I haven't eaten yet. I've been waiting for you." Li Chengshou shook his head, not wanting to go out. Xiao Chun had no choice but to say, "Let's listen to my wife then. How about we order some takeout?" Li Chengshou whispered, "No need, I'll cook." Watching Li Chengshou's back, Xiao Chun suddenly said, "After dinner, remember to help me pack my luggage. I have to go abroad for about a week." Li Chengshou acknowledged and headed into the kitchen with his head down. Tomorrow he had planned to go on a vacation with Qi Ming, and after returning, he intended to officially get engaged in Beijing. How to compensate Li Chengshou? Perhaps he would gift him a restaurant. Although on the surface everything seemed calm, Xiao Chun always felt some unease. As mentioned in the previous episode, Xiao Chun, with his plans perfectly laid out, went abroad for a vacation. For him, wasn't Li Chengshou just passionate about cooking? The restaurant he would gift would allow him to fully engage in his passion. The restaurant should be close to home so that Li Chengshou could return anytime and have flexible working hours. Once back from the vacation, he would settle this matter. After Xiao Chun left, Li Chengshou also started going out every day, eager to find a job quickly. 3 days after Xiao Chun left, Li Chengshou came out of a restaurant where he had an interview and ran into an unexpected person, Adrian. Li Chengshou looked at the delicately crafted person in front of him with some surprise. Today, the place he was interviewing was on the same street as Adrian's salon. Unexpectedly, he ran into Adrian, who is cheerful and straightforward, and quickly pulled Li Chengshou inside, saying, "It's so cold, don't stand outside. Come in and join me for a meal." Soon, Adrian had all the dishes ready. During the meal, he said to Li Chengshou, "What a coincidence. You haven't been here for a long time. By the way, where is Xiao Chun? Why are you alone? He's on a business trip." Adrian observed Li Chengshou's expressions while eating. "What's wrong? Did you have a fight?" Li Chengshou shook his head. Suddenly, Adrian exclaimed, "Don't tell me you broke up?" Surprisingly, there was an obvious excitement in his voice. Li Chengshou was stunned for a moment and quickly shook his head. "What's wrong then? Come on, tell me." Adrian's eyes were sparkling with the light of gossip. Li Chengshou bowed his head and said dully, "It's nothing." Adrian sighed, "Don't think I'm nosy. Oh, I'm just really worried about you." Regardless of whether it was true or not, Li Chengshou felt a touch of warmth in his heart. He managed a smile, "Thanks. You seem like the type who's easy to bully. I'm anxious just looking at you. I can't stand seeing honest people getting bullied. You have to be a bit fierce to avoid being taken advantage of, understand?" Li Chengshou nodded. Who wouldn't understand that? To be blunt, if you keep this up, Xiao Chun will chew you up till there's nothing left. Then, Adrian suddenly threw a flirtatious glance at Li Chengshou. "But if you really break up with Xiao Chun, why not consider me?" Li Chengshou was taken aback, while Adrian burst into laughter, joking, "I only like those with six-pack abs, not someone as skinny as you." Li Chengshou could only laugh awkwardly. However, Adrian lowered his voice mysteriously, "If you can make me happy, I might consider it." Li Chengshou was startled, while Adrian continued quite seriously, "You might not know this, but many people who are slender and good-looking can be surprisingly delightful." Li Chengshou's face turned red. He involuntarily leaned back in his chair and then looked around awkwardly, unsure how to keep up with Adrian's whimsical pace. What was supposed to be a sweet phone call made Li Chengshou so uneasy. To be continued in the next episode. Adrian continued saying that if you break up with Xiao Chun, I can introduce you to a good man. I have plenty of resources on hand. For someone like you, who is virtuous, gentle, and an ideal travel companion, there will absolutely be people lining up for you. Li Chengshou forced a smile, "Leave me your number." Without further ado, Adrian grabbed Li Chengsho's phone and dialed his own number on it. If you have any troubles, just come to me. Don't be shy, we're fellow countrymen. Plus, if you're single, I'll definitely set you up with a boyfriend. I really enjoy playing matchmaker. Li Chengsho nodded helplessly. After the meal, Adrian took Li Chengsho to his studio and gave him a haircut. Then he cheerfully sent him out the door. Adrian's enthusiasm and forthrightness made Li Chengsho momentarily feel the joy of having a friend. He hadn't expected it to be so pleasing. Later, when Li Chengsho got off the bus and was walking home, his phone suddenly rang. He looked at the screen and saw it was Xiao Chun. After hesitating for a long time, he finally pressed the call button. Xiao Quan's feminine noise came through the phone. Hey baby, did you miss me? Li Chengsho replied with suspicion. Miss you? That's more like it. What have you been up to these days? I've been job hunting. And you? Busy? Of course, I'm busy. Xiao Chun seemed not to want to continue this topic and added, I really want to go home early. It's so boring here. I miss you. Li Chengsho couldn't help but smile slightly. Work is important. Oh, by the way, I bought you a lot of gifts, and some very special clothes. Xiao Chun chuckled meaningfully. Will you wear them for me when I get back? Li Chengsho, not understanding, casually replied, sure. This place is actually quite fun. I'll bring you here next time. Suddenly, a knock on the door and a delicate female voice was faintly heard on the other end of the phone. Honey? It was me, Li Chengsho, who paused, and Xiao Chun quickly responded. He addressed Li Chengsho, saying Xiao Zhou's girlfriend. Xiao Zhou was just discussing matters with me. He's in the restroom now. I'll hang up first, I'm going to answer the door. See you when I get back. He didn't wait for any reaction from Li Chengsho. When he went back, he said he wouldn't wait for Li Chengsho to react and decisively hung up the phone. Li Chengsho listened to the busy tone on the other end of the line, recalling the girl just now, and suddenly froze on the street. He was just a bit hesitant, but he's not stupid. He had so much time to call him, so why seize the gap during work discussions? Moreover, Xiao Quan's urgency just now was really unusual. Li Chengsho felt exhausted. Since when did he start having to question everything about Xiao Chun? How did they end up here? He felt he couldn't hold on any longer. He was determined to ask Xiao Chun clearly when he returned, otherwise, these doubts would sooner or later crush him. When Li Chengsho slowly went home, he found a black car parked prominently at the gate. At this time, a middle-aged man got out and said to Li Chengsho, hello, are you Mr. Li? Li Chengsho hurriedly nodded, and at this time, an extremely exquisite and beautiful woman, wrapped in luxurious fur, got out of the car. The man introduced, this is the young master's sister, Miss Xiao Nuo. She glanced at Li Chengsho arrogantly and said, so you are Li Chengsho. Our little Chengsho finally knows the truth. In the last episode, after the two entered the room, Xiao Nuo sat on the sofa and raised an eyebrow at Li Chengsho, who was taking off his coat, with a rather disdainful tone. So you are Li Chengsho. Li Chengsho nodded cautiously. Do you want water? Xiao Nuo proudly lifted her chin. No need. The purpose of my visit is simple. Once I say it, I'll leave. My brother is getting married. Here's a check. Take it and leave quickly. As she spoke, she pulled a piece of paper from her bag and slapped it on the table. Li Chengsho stood stiffly to the side. She spoke softly with her head slightly lowered, saying he won't get married. Of course, marriage won't come so quickly, but they're going to get engaged once they return from their vacation. Li Chengsho looked at Xiao Nuo with a somewhat bewildered expression and murmured about the vacation. Right, they're currently on vacation in the South Pacific. Li Chengsho shook her head in a daze. No, he said he was on a business trip. Xiao Nuo was also taken aback for a moment, pursed her lips, took out her phone from her bag, and showed him the screen. This is a photo my brother sent me yesterday. Li Chengsho stared blankly at the photo. It definitely showed Xiao Chun, and the woman wearing a swimsuit, intimately hugging him, was the model he had seen in the newspapers. The two of them looked very happy. Li Chengsho's eyes brimmed with tears. With a trembling voice, he said, maybe they're just friends. Xiao Nuo stared at him with a hint of doubt in her eyes, then frowned and pressed the call button. Hold on, don't say anything. I'll make you give up completely. She turned on the speakerphone, and after the waiting tone, a lazy voice that both of them were familiar with came through. Not doing much, just lying in bed. Are you having fun? It's all right. Say hello to my third sister for me. Immediately, a soft voice came from the other side. Hello sister. Hi, are you having fun? So pretty, sister, you should come and play when you're free. Is Xiao Chun treating you well? Yes, Xiao Chun is very good to me. While saying this, playful sounds could be faintly heard from the other side. Xiao Nuo gave a forced laugh without any expression and perfunctorily said, that's good. Now, hand the phone to Xiao Chun, I need to talk to him about something. Xiao Quan's voice came through again. Sister, what is it? I was asking if you have any special requests for your engagement party. No, you all can decide on that. Xiao Nuo said a few more words then hung up the phone. Turning around, she saw Li Chengshou forcefully covering his mouth, tears covering his face. A flash of panic crossed Xiao Nuo's eyes. Why are you crying? What's a grown man doing crying? Where do I even begin? It's all because Xiao Chun is getting married. Every word from Xiao Chun is like a knife, stabbing deeply into his heart. His heart is bleeding. What are tears in comparison? No matter how much he lies to himself, trying to cover up all doubts, they crumble before the truth. To him, everything seems like a dream. In the end, Shu Shu chose to leave. In the last episode, Xiao Nuo seemed unsure of how to handle the situation and just froze. She stood there stiffly, awkwardly looking at Li Chengshu, crying with her head down for a long time before standing up angrily. The noble demeanor of the talented and rich family's daughter was gone. She cursed casually, making it seem as if she was the one being bullied. She pushed the check towards Li Chengshu. Take this and move out quickly. My brother is not suitable for you, and he's not as great as you think. Just break it off with him quickly, it's better for everyone. Li Chengshu suddenly lifted her face to look at him and said with a choked voice, you can go. The keys are on the shoe cabinet. You go, and I will leave as well. I will definitely leave. Xiao Nuo's face turned pale as she quickly walked out in her high heels, not stopping until the door was closed. Only when the door was shut did Li Chengshu dare to make a sound, crying with her head in her hands. Xiao Chun lied to me. My heart hurts so much. I've never felt such despair. Where should I go from here? Xiao Quan's deceit, was the person he knew really me? It was the same decades ago. I've always been alone, and no one could save me. Could someone who couldn't save me the first time save me the second? This place is filled with memories of Xiao Chun and me. I can't stay here for another second. I must leave immediately. It took him just over half an hour to pack up his things. Then, he made do with a night in a teacup at a hotel. But he was so exhausted in body and mind that he couldn't sleep at all. But he didn't have much energy to vent his feelings. He hastily rented a new place, planning to break it off with Xiao Chun face to face when he returned. In the strange room, everything familiar was gone. Where were the people who once accompanied him? Li Chengshu felt his eyes begin to sting again. Suddenly, he raised his hand and fiercely slapped himself. He kept hitting himself, telling himself not to cry. Stop crying, you're so useless, stop crying. 3 days later, when Xiao Chun came home and saw that Li Chengshu was not there, he hurriedly called him. Why aren't you at home? I just got off the plane. Did you leave early to find a job? Didn't you know I was coming back today? Couldn't you have made me breakfast before leaving? Xiao Quan's tone sounded very displeased. Xiao Quan's tone sounded displeased. Li Chengshu was moving his lips, unable to make a sound for a long time. Speak, can you hear me? If you're coming back now, then hurry up. I want to eat the food you make. Never mind, where are you? I'll come pick you up. No need, no need. Alright, hurry up. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Chun couldn't help but smile. He looked at the pile of bags on the ground, wondering what Li Chengshu's reaction would be when he received these gifts. He didn't know what got into him this time. He hadn't planned to buy much, but whenever he saw something nice, he thought it suited Li Chengshu and couldn't help but buy it all. And he decided that next time, he should bring Li Chengshu along for the trip, so it wouldn't be so boring. Our little Chengshu finally suggested breaking up. Xiao Dai chased the countdown to the crematorium. In the last episode, an hour passed, and the doorbell rang. Xiao Chun opened the door from inside for Li Chengshu and then reproached, how can you go out without even bringing your keys? Seeing him, Li Chengshu's face turned pale as paper, and his body was somewhat shaky. Xiao Chun hurried forward to support him. What's wrong with you? I've only been away a few days. How have you lost so much weight? Saying this, he pulled Li Chengshu inside, but Li Chengshu gently pushed him away. Holding his hand, Xiao Chun turned his head and raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? He noticed something was off with Li Chengshu today, as if he had lost his soul. He had never seen Li Chengshu like this before. What happened to Chengshu? Tell me. But Li Chengshu just took something out of his pocket. Here is 40,000 yuan. I will return the rest to you in 2 years. Xiao Chun looked at the dark red passbook, stunned. What does this mean? I have already moved out. I will definitely return it to you. After hearing this, Xiao Chun got angry and said through gritted teeth, what do you mean? At this moment, Li Chengshu's eyes were red, as if he was enduring great pain. He said hoarsely, Xiao Chun, let's break up. Xiao Chun showed an incredulous expression. He widened his eyes and raised his voice, what did you say? Then the two had a fierce argument. Li Chengshu's face also showed a trace of despair. He turned to leave, but Xiao Chun grabbed his arm tightly and shouted, I won't marry a woman. As long as we can still be together, it doesn't matter whether I get married or not. I can treat you better. What on earth are you making trouble about? Li Chengshu looked up, his face full of pain, tears sliding down from his eyes. Xiao Chun, what do you take me for? Did President Chen give you the promotion because of me? Did you force me to resign? Facing Li Chengshou's questioning, Xiao Chun felt guilty, his eyes flickered, and his Adam's apple moved up and down. His expression was an admission. At this moment, Li Chengshou felt that his vision was blurred. He could hardly recognize this person anymore. Then he suddenly turned around and ran towards the door. Xiao Chun watched his back, veins bulging on his forehead, and shouted angrily, Li Chengshou, if you have the guts to leave this door today, don't ever come back. You really think you are something just because I treated you well? Who are you to break up with me? What right do you have? But no matter what he said, Li Chengshou didn't look back and rushed out the door. He completely misjudged. At this time, Xiao Chun had not yet realized how important Li Chengshou was to him. Xiao Chun was so angry that he smashed the row of glass cabinets against the wall to pieces. When he turned around and saw the pile of gifts he had bought for Li Chengshou, he was even angrier, his eyes turning red. He threw away all the things he had carefully selected until he was exhausted and gasping for breath. But he still couldn't calm the anger and anxiety in his chest. He looked at the wide-open door and thought that Li Chengshou would definitely come back soon. But even after 2 hours, Xiao Chun was still restless. Growing more and more panicked, he stood up directly from the sofa, unable to believe what had just happened. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Could it be that Li Chengshou really broke up with me? At this moment, Li Chengshou, dragging his numb body, returned to his temporarily rented small attic. It was all over. He would never go back again. He wanted to bury all memories and emotions here. He wanted to forget everything. Forgetting would be better. There would be no sadness, no repeated hurt. At this moment, a little teacup jumped out of its nest and ran to rub against his trouser leg. Li Chengshou glanced at the teacup and smiled faintly. It was good to have Teacup with him. To Li Chengshou, perhaps only Teacup would never deceive him. Not long after, Adrian called him. I found a really good Yunnan restaurant right under your building. I'll take you there. Then Li Chengshou went downstairs, and indeed, Adrian was waiting for him. Haven't seen you in a few days. You've lost a lot of weight and you look in bad shape. Something happened? Li Chengshou shook his head. Then Adrian leaned in close and tentatively asked if he had fought with Xiao Chun. Hearing this name, Li Chengshou's body stiffened, and Adrian, keenly observant, instantly captured his expression, suddenly exclaiming, "You broke up with him?" Li Chengshou slightly lifted his eyes and nodded blankly. Adrian shouted, "That's great. It's a good thing." Then he carefully embraced Li Chengshou, comforting him, "Baby, don't be sad. Trust me, breaking up with him is really for the best. I knew sooner or later you would. Xiao Chun doesn't deserve you. I'll find you someone better, don't be sad." Adrian's shoulders may not be broad, but they are warm. Li Chengshou's stiff body gradually relaxes. It feels so good to have someone by your side. Last episode, Adrian took Li Chengshou out for a meal, constantly talking about things Li Chengshou didn't know. Let me tell you, Xiao Chun is just a playboy's kept lover, with others scattered in different places. He spends money on them when he likes them, and kicks them out as soon as he doesn't. After hearing this, Li Chengshou truly believed that the real Xiao Chun was very different. Adrian continued, "After you and Xiao Chun broke up, did he give you a house?" Li Chengshou shook his head, not understanding why he would live in someone else's house after breaking up. "Are you an idiot?" Adrian tapped his forehead with a finger. "You were with him for over a year, and when he says it's over, and you get nothing out of it.